Long Chen's slap only made Hong Yaoyang's head turn, while Long Chen's own hand ended up racked by piercing pain. Ming Zongyue and Leng Yueyan were both startled. Long Chen had attacked so quickly that even they hadn't been able to react. Courting death. Being slapped by a mortal enraged Hong Yaoyang. The black qi around him surged violently as he attempted to break Leng Yueyan's bindings. Seeing that he was unable to escape though and how much he wanted to tear him apart, Long Chen decided that one slap wasn't enough. He slapped him 36 times in a row. Perhaps he might be lacking in other regards, but when it came to face slapping, no one would dare to claim that they were above him. This big face of Hong Yaoyang's was begging to be slapped, free of charge. The other 6 people who had come with Hong Yaoyang immediately roared and charged forward. As a result, Leng Yueyan waved her hand, summoning a barrier of light that knocked them back. "You're still acting so arrogantly within my palace? Do you think I don't dare to kill you?" sneered Leng Yueyan. The void trembled. Divine light streamed out of her throne, condensing into 9 rainbow-colored swords pointed at Hong Yaoyang. Upon seeing those swords, Hong Yaoyang's expression changed. "I'm a nether god just like you. I refuse to believe you dare to kill me." As for the others he had brought with him, they were too terrified to say a word. The sinister killing intent coming from those swords filled the air. "You're right, I can't kill you. But half killing you is all right." Leng Yueyan waved the nether god order. The chains binding Hong Yaoyang slowly faded. Hong Yaoyang looked at Long Chen who was just a foot away, but he didn't dare to attack. Those 9 swords were locked onto him. If he attacked, they would automatically pierce him. "Fine. Count yourself vicious." Hong Yaoyang's gaze swept across them, a vein bulging on his forehead. "Just wait. You'll regret this day. Especially you, you little mortal. I'll make you regret ever coming to this world." Hong Yaoyang pointed at Long Chen, shaking with rage. He couldn't even express his hatred with words. "Did your parents never teach you not to point at others? It's very rude. Who do you think you are? If you were born in the same era as me, in the same world, I'd teach you a real lesson. You'd quiver whenever you saw me," sneered Long Chen. He knew that both Ming Zongyue and this fellow were existences that had lived for countless years. He couldn't beat him now. But if they were the same age in the same realm, he'd crush him with just a palm. "Good, you're quite arrogant. Just wait." Hong Yaoyang smiled cruelly. He turned, bringing his people away. Watching them leave, Long Chen had an odd expression. Who was that idiot? After living so many years, is this how gods live? If they were on the martial heaven continent, they would have the crap beaten out of them. Leng Yueyan and Ming Zongyue smiled. Ming Zongyue said, "He truly does have something wrong with his brain. However, he has a very good background, so even if he's brainless, others can't do anything to him." "Long Chen, time's about up. You should return to the Netherpassage path. Come and give me a kiss." Leng Yueyan beckoned to him with her fingers. Long Chen warily asked, "Are you conning me?" "What? Are you afraid she'll get jealous?" asked Leng Yueyan. Long Chen looked at Ming Zongyue. She smiled in reply, and only then did Long Chen walk over. As soon as he got close, Leng Yueyan's smile suddenly vanished and she shouted, "Long Chen, you dared to show disloyalty to me. This is your punishment." Leng Yueyan slammed her palm into Long Chen's chest. He felt a burst of pain, as if hot iron had been stamped onto his chest. "Fuck, you really dash." Before Long Chen could finish speaking, a portal appeared behind him, and he was devoured. His voice was cut off. The Nether God Palace returned to quiet, with only Leng Yueyan and Ming Zongyue present. After a long time, Ming Zongyue sighed, "You're smart to use such a method to help him." Leng Yueyan smiled faintly. "What, are you sad he's gone?" Ming Zongyue was silent for a long time once more before slowly nodding. "Thank you." "What are you thanking me for?" "Thank you for allowing me to learn what love is. My heart has been opened." "So you've decided to start your revenge now? Otherwise, why would you bring Long Chen with you to antagonize Hong Yaoyang? Is that despicable? Did I pull Long Chen into my karma?" asked Ming Zongyue. Leng Yueyan sat back down on her throne and stretched lazily. "No. Let me put it to you this way. During the days that we fought, I finally comprehended something. What is that? I obtained the evil dragon's soul essence before fighting against you on the Martial Heaven continent. On the surface, it appears as if Long Chen has been infected by my karma. However, later, when I thought about it, I realized I was the one who fell into his karma. Now you've fallen in as well. Long Chen's identity is very mysterious. He has never mentioned his origins to anyone, and his cultivation art especially involves even greater karma. So you don't need to feel any guilt. Long Chen taught me that to be able to die with the person you love is a kind of blessing. Our lives are now inextricably wrapped around each other. Since we've already fallen within that karma, we don't need to worry about this. We can join forces to go against our joint enemies. You actually knew? Ming Songyue looked at Leng Yueyan with disbelief. Long Chen is my man. When you opened your heart to him and he became your man as well, your sealed soul opened to me. I saw all your secrets. Songyue, our man has become the bridge reconnecting our God energy, our minds, and our souls. You are me, I am. We should be working together for our goals, said Leng Yueyan, walking over to Ming Songyue. Ming Songyue looked at Leng Yueyan. A smile of relief gradually appeared on her face. It feels good having someone to share my burden. With your help, I'm much more confident. It's not just me. Long Chen will help you as well, promised Leng Yueyan. Him? Ming Songyue was unconvinced. Don't underestimate him. The Martial Heaven continent's Heavenly Fire is also the Heavenly Fire born by the core of the star field. A few years is just a flash for us, but it's enough for Long Chen to undergo a shocking transformation. In the future, it won't just be us. Long Chen will be there as well, said Leng Yueyan profoundly. Long Chen fell from the void, smashing into the ground like a meteorite and leaving a hole. At the same time, he heard many familiar voices. The impact from his fall left him dizzy, like the stars were spinning around him. Long Chen. The familiar voices made him open his eyes. He saw Meng Qi's shocked face. He also saw Chu Yao, Tang Wana, Yijiqiu, Guoran, and the others. Boss, where did you go? Asked Guoran. We were worried about you. They had entered the gates of hell together, but then they had found that Long Chen was gone. That had naturally made them feel extremely anxious. But after going through the gates, they couldn't go back. There was only a straight way in front of them. With every step forward they took, the space behind them solidified. They couldn't go back. Their hope was that Long Chen had gone off ahead to scout the path, but that wasn't too likely. With Long Chen's character, he wouldn't do such a thing, especially not without telling them first. Eventually, they were forced to continue pressing onward while still searching for Long Chen. You damn fool, where did you run off to? We were all worried sick, demanded Tang Wanner with reddened eyes. She put on a tough exterior, but she had the weakest heart inside. She had been the one most worried about Long Chen. Her imagination had been going crazy as she worried about him. I don't know either. I was drawn into a large palace. Inside, there were 2 demons. I fought with them for a long time before finally subduing them and running out, said Long Chen. Thanks to Meng Qi and the others, he managed to get up. Within the Nethergod Palace, the 2 of them chuckled. Long Chen actually called them 2 demons, and even said that he had subdued them. Do you see? Are you still sad about him leaving? I told you, this person needs a beating every few days or he'll do something stupid. If you pamper him, he'll ascend the heavens, and not in a good way. Leng Yueyan snorted coldly while Ming Songyue laughed. The ground was embedded with giant rocks. Long Chen had smashed a giant hole through one of those rocks. The other life forms in the surroundings were frightened away by this scene. Oh, Long Chen, what's that on your chest? Meng Qi suddenly noticed something. There was a diagram on Long Chen's chest. It looked to be a handprint. There were many lines just like a real hand had left a brand. The handprint was very clear at the start, but then began to slowly fade until it vanished. Why did those lines look so strange? Didn't they seem like a labyrinth? In my years of learning how to read the palms of ladies from Boss, I've never seen such a thing, said Guoran curiously. Big brother Long Chen, you know how to palm read? Why do you only do it for ladies? Dong Mingyu giggled. Guoran immediately realized he had misspoken. He glanced at Long Chen, only to see a murderous gaze that made him hastily retreat. Long Chen, the path ahead splits into 5. We were still deciding which way to go when you fell from the sky. You should decide. Meng Qi changed the conversation, pointing at the fork. Long Chen looked at the path ahead. Other life forms were also at the fork, pondering which path they should take. No one knew where these paths led, and once they decided, they couldn't go back. Long Chen stood and asked Meng Qi and the others what had happened. Meng Qi said that they had come to forks before, but they had always been two-way forks. They had randomly chosen every time, and sometimes the path they took would be very easy, while sometimes they would face a hail of fire, lightning, or ice. There were all kinds of attacks that manifested. Those attacks were spiritual attacks targeting the soul, and their weapons couldn't help them against such attacks. Fortunately, while the attacks hurt their Yuan spirits, they weren't fatal. Furthermore, after enduring those attacks, they sensed a mysterious energy strengthening their Yuan spirits. Most likely, this was a kind of trial in the netherworld. However, the further they went, the stronger the attacks grew. Once, Guoran had almost died to a flame arrow. Later on, they realized that each fork had one easy path and one hard path. However, none of them could tell which was which. They had seen many life forms perish along the way. The handprint left on his chest appeared in Long Chen's mind. Had Leng Yueyan left him a map? He waved his hand, indicating for them not to rush. The lines of the handprint appeared in his mind. Leng Yueyan really did leave me a map. Only this place splits in 5. The color is a gradient, most likely indicating difficulty. In the end, the left and right paths converge. That place should be the exit. But what does that black and white mark mean? After memorizing what he needed to know, Long Chen pointed. The middle path. He led everyone down the middle path. This was also the path that most of the other life forms chose. Within the palace, Ming Zhongyue frowned at the scene she was seeing on the holders of evil. Did Long Chen not understand? Leng Yueyan smiled. No, you don't understand Long Chen. Oh. You were only with him once, while I did it with him many times. That's why I understand him better. Leng Yueyan chuckled, causing Ming Zhongyue to blush. Even if Leng Yueyan was her other self, she wasn't used to such words. Ah, the great nether god is blushing? Is being with the one you love something embarrassing? Laughed Leng Yueyan. Let's not talk about that. If Long Chen does understand, why would he make that choice? Ming Zhongyue refused to talk about that subject. Leng Yueyan became serious. Long Chen isn't someone you can control. Even if he knows the answer to the riddle, he'll test out other possibilities to overthrow the original answer. He does not believe there is only one answer. I'm sure he understood the layout of the Netherpassage path, but he has his own way of thinking. He won't follow the path that I indicated. This fellow chose the middle difficulty of the 5 paths, most likely to test it. He'll definitely show us an interesting, stubborn show. Just at this moment, Long Chen and the others entered the middle path. As Meng Qi had explained, the space behind them condensed so that they couldn't look back. After half an incense stick's worth of time, Meng Qi suddenly cried out, Long Chen, divine punishment from the heavenly Daos is coming. Long Chen nodded, raising his hand to tell everyone to slow down. He then walked to the ground ahead of them. After just a few steps, a bolt of lightning crashed down from the sky, piercing toward his head like a sword. Long Chen unleashed a punch, blowing that lightning away. It transformed into runes and dissipated. Long Chen grabbed some of those runes but quickly tossed them out. He had been planning on giving these runes to Lei Long to feed on. But Lei Long said that this was Yin lighting, while it was Yang lightning. The opposing elements between them made it so that Lei Long couldn't absorb it. Hence, Long Chen tossed it away. The lightning here deviates toward the Yin side. It doesn't harm the physical body or soul. Instead, it targets the will, creating illusions. However, considering everyone's will, this level of lightning shouldn't be anything. Let's go. Long Chen started walking forward, allowing more bolts of lightning to crash down and strike him. The Dragonblood warriors had powerful wills, but they weren't so reckless. They protected their heads as they followed. Although they were currently just Yuan spirits, the pain was the same as if they were on the martial heaven continent. When struck by the lightning, they felt like their bodies would be torn apart. However, with Long Chen's explanation, they found that this pain wasn't true pain but a misperception. If they were tricked by this pain, it would easily lead to illusions. Fortunately, Long Chen was present. He was the core of the Dragon Blood Legion. Just seeing him invigorated the Dragon Blood Legion. Even Guoran felt confident once more. Although he cried out miserably from the pain, he wasn't afraid. As they were walking, suddenly, one of the life forms ahead of them exploded into bloody mist, making them all jump. Following the first life form, the nearby life forms also exploded. That was a horrifying sight. It's nothing to be afraid of. Some people's wills aren't strong enough. When the illusions fill their minds, they are led to detonate as if they are fighting unbeatable enemies or experiencing unbearable pain, said Long Chen. Not all life forms had such powerful wills. Even among these experts of myriad worlds, the Dragon Blood Legion was outstanding. Many of these experts ended up having holes appear within their hearts when they saw the experts around them die, creating a chain reaction. Long Chen continued forward and passed one human-shaped life form with violet hair. He was shouting something indecipherable, and his eyes were red. Long Chen kicked him in the butt, sending him flying far away. When he finally crawled up from the ground, he kowtowed to Long Chen 3 times before continuing onward. He had been on the verge of being lost within the illusions. Long Chen's kick had returned him to reality and saved his life. Guoran did the same thing as Long Chen, kicking someone who was standing motionless on the path. As a result, that person angrily gestured and shouted at him, seeming to be cursing him. "Hey, what's up? I just saved your life, alright? You don't seem very grateful," shouted Guoran back. You interrupted his comprehension. "If we didn't outnumber him, he'd probably be beating you up right now," said Long Chen irritably. Long Chen had seen it clearly. That life form had had their eyes closed in meditation while holding one of the lightning runes. Perhaps their core energy was related to this kind of lightning. As a result, Guoran's interruption had broken the rune. Most likely, that life form already had an urge to kill him. "Fine, sorry brother. You keep meditating. We'll go first." Guoran hastily plastered on an apologetic smile. That life form might not understand Guoran's words, but Guoran's actions and tone gave them a general understanding, and they didn't say anything more. "Boss, most of these life forms are human. Doesn't that mean that our human race is the strongest?" asked Guoran. "That's not necessarily true. Many of them might have only taken temporary human form because their original bodies are not as close to the heavenly Daos. In this place we have no idea," said Long Chen. "Then doesn't that also indicate that the human race is the strongest? But why are there so many humans on the martial heaven continent willing to lick the feet of the ancient races and the Xian beasts?" asked Guoran. "They're slaves." Long Chen was indifferent to this question. They had finally reached the end of this fork, and up ahead, the path once more split, this time into 6. "The right one." Long Chen pointed. He knew that the path on the right was the most difficult one. Long Chen knew from Leng Yueyan's map that the previous fork had been split between 5 difficulties. The middle one was not easy but also not hard. However, this time he picked the most difficult path. Leng Yueyan was correct. Long Chen wouldn't pick the simplest path. He chose the most difficult one. He had only taken the medium path the first time to get a general understanding of just how difficult it was. With that estimate, he directly challenged the most difficult path. Very few life forms were present on the path he chose. Due to so many forks along the way, most of the life forms were scattered throughout the paths. When the Dragon Blood warriors entered this path, all their expressions changed. The smell of blood hung in the air. That feeling was very familiar to them. It was the air of the dead. They could sense the unwillingness of the lives that had ended prematurely here. Although that feeling was present on the previous paths, it was dozens of times stronger here. It gave them goosebumps. "Boss, did you take us the wrong way?" asked Guoran worriedly. His cultivator's intuition was telling him that the danger had just leaped to a point where his little life could be lost at any moment. Don't worry, this is definitely the right one. It is the most difficult of the 6 paths, confirmed Longchen. Ah! Guoran and the others turned green. Their boss had actually intentionally brought them to such a place. Longchen smiled. Don't be afraid. Worst case, we all die together. Think about it. When have we ever walked a path that wasn't full of danger and difficulties? Whether we fought our enemies or heavenly tribulation, wasn't it always a walk with death? The netherworld is also just another trial. It has its own laws. The strong live, while the weak die. We are strong because we don't give up any chance to get stronger. It is precisely because we dare to risk our lives that we are able to live with dignity even within the dangerous swamp known as the Martial Heaven continent. Don't be afraid of the netherworld. Just remember that this is a trial that we must charge through, because we are the Dragonblood Legion. We are an unrivaled existence in this world. I want to become the strongest. 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 The Dragonblood warriors had their hot blood ignited by Longchen. Their original talent hadn't been high. It was thanks to Longchen's resources that they had grown. However, those resources were just the foundation for their growth. The reason they could grow to their current position was due to constantly pushing themselves to the brink of death to get stronger. Now that Longchen brought it up again, they thought of their countless bloody battles, the countless dangers they had barely survived, the countless brushes against the god of death. Their success wasn't a coincidence. It was inevitable. In the Martial Heaven continent, who dared to be as crazy as them? They knew that they were following a madman leading them to do the world's craziest things. It was precisely due to this that they had their current position. For others, no matter how crazy they were, they still had to be deferential to the merciless laws of the netherworld. However, to Longchen, even those laws couldn't change who he was. His craziness hadn't changed. Now the rest of the Dragonblood warriors followed his craziness. Who cares about some damn netherworld? Even if the netherworld's god came, they would only be fit to carry boss's shoes. Brothers, charge forward together with boss, shouted Guoran. Cough, that's bragging a bit too hard. I've always had a special spot for the nether god in my heart. Don't say such a thing, said Longchen hastily. Was Guoran born to con him? Longchen grumbled inside. Ming Songyue and Leng Yueyan were definitely watching what was going on here. Sharpen your minds. Brothers, let's go. The Dragonblood Legion's target is the strongest trial. Longchen walked out ahead of everyone. Space twisted. Flame chains whirled out of the void like tentacles, enveloping Longchen. Longchen was suddenly torn apart by the chains and exploded into blood. Longchen, Mengqi, Chu Yao, Tangwan, and Cloud all let out heart-rending screams and charged over. Mengqi rapidly formed hand seals, seeking to restore Longchen's torn soul. Everyone else was too stunned to even move. Their boss had been torn apart? Hey, what are you all doing? The void suddenly twisted, revealing Longchen still standing in his original location. He was waving over to them. Longchen, you're not dead? Tangwaner held onto Longchen tightly, her tears turning into relieved laughter. Mengqi and the others were the same. They really had thought that he had died. Longchen, what happened? Asked Mengqi as she wiped away her tears. Nothing. I was just testing the power of the flame chains, then I heard you all shouting. What happened to you? Longchen also didn't understand. After a brief explanation, Longchen realized what had happened. So these are flames of the heart. You will see what you fear the most. It seemed that this trial was similar to the previous trial. However, the last trial was something that slowly encroached upon the soul. As long as you were on guard, it was easy to defend against. But this time, things had happened suddenly. It had been so real that they hadn't been able to tell the illusion from reality, throwing their hearts into chaos. How dangerous! If you hadn't appeared soon enough, Big Sister Mengqi would have forcibly condensed your soul back. Then she might have lost her life too, said Tangwaner worriedly. At that time, Mengqi hadn't been thinking. There had only been the slightest hope, but she had still been about to throw her life away for it. Condensing Long Chen's soul again would have cost her most of her Yuan spirit. Long Chen gave Meng Qi a tight hug to comfort her. He said, "Everyone, you've now experienced just how powerful this trial is. Any carelessness can result in death. You don't just need to have confidence in yourself, but you also have to have confidence in others." Other experts only had confidence in themselves. As for the Dragonblood warriors, while they trusted each other, being thrown into such a mental state without any preparations could still cause them trouble. "Boss, we understand," said Guiyang and the others. Their previous arrogance had received a sharp slap from the Netherpassage path's laws. "Good. I'll go on ahead once more. Be careful." Long Chen stepped forward. Flame chains shot out of the void, piercing toward him. Long Chen snorted. Flames appeared on his own fist, and he smashed apart the chains. However, Meng Qi and the others saw Long Chen being attacked and killed again. Everyone advanced into the region that he was in. Flame's chains shot out at them and they blocked them. As a result, they saw the people beside them being killed by the flame chains. Their flesh was torn apart. These visions were incredibly lifelike. It felt like reality, but after the first wave, they found that the people beside them were still alive. However, they were all pale. Perhaps they weren't afraid of death, but they couldn't accept seeing their brothers die in front of them. They had seen everyone other than themselves die. That was a vision that sparked despair. Now they had personally experienced why some of the previous life forms had self-detonated. It was their own way to release themselves from that despair. Without the warning from Long Chen, they didn't know if they would be able to last. But after each wave of mental attacks, their confidence grew. The flame chains filled the surroundings with fire. It was like a constant burning of their souls. It was unbearable, yet they had no choice but to bear it. The curious thing though was that Guoran, the one with the weakest will, was able to endure it every time and seemed to be doing it very easily. "Guoran, when did your will become so powerful?" asked Guiyang. He was standing beside Guoran, originally with the intent of protecting him, only to find that there was no need to do so. "Are you joking? After bathing in the radiance of my boss every day, hearing my boss's teachings, how could my will not be strong? It's just that as a person, I am very low-key. This little bit of improvement isn't anything worth bragging about," said Guoran bashfully without concealing the pleased expression in his eyes. "Don't listen to his bragging. This trial adjusts itself based on the will of each person. People without a strong will are under less pressure. After all, this trial isn't designed to be a path of death," said Long Chen. "But even if the pressure is lighter, it can't be this easy," grumbled Guiyang. "Perhaps his will is so weak that not even the laws of this place can sense it?" Long Chen shrugged. Everyone looked over at Guoran, their expressions growing odd. They finally reached the end of the path and arrived at a giant empty space. Countless life forms had gathered here. Ahead of them were 9 paths. Many life forms had gathered in the area ahead, but those life forms no longer had their old arrogance and confidence from before entering the gates of hell. Without exception, they were all tense, and some of them were even quivering just by standing there. Clearly, they had gone through their own terrifying trials to reach here. They had personally witnessed countless other experts being killed. As a result, many of them felt lucky to be able to reach this point. In front of the laws of the Netherpassage path, they felt powerless, as if they were just randomly betting with their lives. One bad bet and they would die. Furthermore, they had no choice but to bet. "Curious. Why are there so many paths now?" wondered Meng Qi. Based on her observation, the sequence had gone from 5 forks to 6 forks, so there should be 7 forks next. However, now there were 9. That represented a limit. Most likely, this was the final pass. Long Chen had an idea as to why. Because he had chosen the most difficult trial on the 6-way fork, they had directly entered the 9th path. Based on his senses to the 9 paths up ahead, there were only 3 that they could choose. The others had strange fluctuations expelling him. The options were the 1st, the 5th, and the 9th paths. One was the weakest, the other was in the middle, and the last was the strongest. The strangest thing is that we didn't see a single person from the martial heaven continent. Guoran looked around curiously. Xia Chen bumped him, indicating to be quiet. Long Chen had sat down and closed his eyes, meditating. Hence, Guoran shut his mouth. Within the Nethergod Palace, Ming Zongyue wondered, what is he thinking? Leng Yueyan shook her head. No one can ever tell what he's thinking. There are only 3 paths in front of him now, but all 3 end up at half-life half-death bridge. Half of those who step foot onto it will die, half will live. No matter how tough their lives are, half will still die there, I understand. With the Nethergod order, you can help them pass. I'm fine with it, said Ming Zongyue. But changing the laws like that is against the position of a Nethergod. Our vengeance will be forced to come to a stop, and I'll even receive a curse from the laws. So, no need to ask. You're me, I am. Alone, you can't endure the curse, so I will also be affected. However, since we've chosen to bet on Long Chen, we should go all out. Whether we win or lose, let's bet, said Ming Kang, determined. Leng Yueyan smiled and didn't say anything. She clenched the Nethergod order, preparing to help Long Chen's group pass at the final juncture. Long Chen had his eyes closed in meditation for a long time. Meng Qi and the others didn't wish to disturb him. They were familiar with him and knew that he was definitely calculating something. The other life forms in the surroundings made their choices one by one, entering their own paths. Their bodies vanished from sight. Out of nowhere, Long Chen suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood, making Meng Qi and the others jump. Long Chen waved his hand, indicating that he was fine. He closed his eyes once more. Meng Qi and the others looked at each other, not knowing why he would suddenly cough up blood. He hadn't been injured before. They could only keep standing watch. At the same time, they also focused on maintaining their peak condition. When they closed their eyes to meditate, they found a happy surprise. Their Yuan spirits were several times stronger compared to when they had entered the gates of hell. As expected, the stronger the trial inside the Netherpassage path, the greater the rewards. Even if their physical bodies were destroyed, at this rate, their Yuan spirits could survive on their own. Even without having advanced to the Netherpassage realm, they had grown much stronger. A powerful Yuan spirit increased the power of their magical arts. As a result, their total combat power had risen without them even being aware. In the face of the tough choice in front of them, countless life forms were still hesitating. This was why no one could carry out memories of this place. It was to prevent anyone from cheating. No matter who came here, they would have to rely on luck and power to survive. As life forms went by, more came. However, the Dragon Blood warriors continued to just stand there. Quite a few life forms were simply watching just like them. They either hadn't made their preparations or were still thinking. Eventually, Long Chen opened his eyes and stood. "Boss, can we move out?" Long Chen's gaze swept over everyone. "Brothers, we are facing a difficult problem. No matter which path we take, we will still end up arriving upon a bridge. That bridge kills half of those who walk on it no matter what. It has nothing to do with cultivation base. It is entirely luck." Just now, Long Chen had sent the energy of his Yuan spirit out to probe the paths ahead. As a result, the laws of this place had descended upon him, injuring him and making him cough up blood. However, he didn't give up. Activating the primal chaos bead, he assimilated the laws of this place. Using his spiritual strength, he probed the path ahead and saw a half-life half-death bridge. He had observed it for a long time. Therefore, he had seen countless life forms walk across it and die, allowing him to see the problem. In other words, only half the Dragon Blood warriors can pass? Unacceptable! Roared Guiyang. The Dragon Blood warriors were closer than brothers. They would rather die themselves than let the others die. "Boss, is there no other way?" demanded Guoran. His tone was that of a question, but he knew that this was a law of the Netherworld. No one could change it. There was no path back. They could only choose to go forward. In front of these laws, people were weak. They could only meekly lower their heads. Even if they didn't accept it, they had to. What else could they do? "There is another way." With just that one statement, The Dragonblood warriors were relieved and delighted. But his next words extinguished the flames burning inside their hearts. "There is a way, but the odds of success are very low," said Long Chen. "How low?" "We only have a 20% chance of surviving," said Long Chen solemnly. Everyone's hearts shook. 20%? That was too low. Does the Dragonblood Legion wish to live and die together? Long Chen looked over at everyone. "Fuck, we'll risk it. The Dragonblood Legion can't exist without half its brothers. What would be the point of living? Boss, let's do it. Even a 1 in 10,000 chance would be worth it." "Yes, boss, we have to do it. We've already walked across mountains of blades and seas of blood. Let's add this to our record too." "Boss, let's not hesitate. Just direct us. We'll live together or die together." The Dragonblood warriors shouted passionately. "All right, then let's flip the heavens." Seeing those fiery gazes, Long Chen also felt a heroic feeling. "Let's go." Long Chen waved his hand, bringing everyone to the easiest path. Quite a few other life forms followed them. The mist covering the path was like a gaping maw devouring them. Long Chen led his people inside without hesitation. Half an incense stick's worth of time later, swords rained down from the sky. Evil Moon appeared in Long Chen's hands, and he unleashed a giant black saber image. Divine Ring. Long Chen was starting to unleash his full power. When the Divine Ring appeared, the laws of the world twisted and tore. This was the end of the Netherpassage path, and the trial had grown incredibly powerful. These sharp swords contained various kinds of energy. Metal, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, lightning, light, dark, all kinds of energy were mixed together. When blocking the first kind of energy, the other kinds would pass through. Runes flashed through the air, falling like a rain of light. When they landed on people's bodies, it felt like they were being smelted by a furnace of 10,000 flames. Long Chen took the lead all on his own, shattering the strongest attacks. "Xia Chen, endure it." Guoran let out a startled cry. He saw that Xia Chen looked to be on the verge of collapse. "I'm fine. I can endure." Xia Chen was pale, but he continued pressing on. As a formation master, he focused on study. He didn't have as much time to cultivate his body or soul. Seeing Xia Chen on the verge of collapse, Guoran carried him on his back as he pressed onward. Guoran was an anomaly. He was the only one whose will couldn't be sensed by the laws here. Perhaps his will was just too weak, so the attacks didn't bother him. However, for the others, things were growing more difficult. It felt like their souls were about to be torn apart. If anyone felt despair, they would be doomed. This was the final trial of their will. "Everyone, prepare yourselves. Charge through with me." Long Chen suddenly shouted. Stars appeared in his eyes, and white dragon scales covered his body. "Split the heavens 8. Boom. Long Chen suddenly unleashed an attack that tore through the void, creating a giant hole in space. From that hole, they could see another path. "Quick, run," shouted Long Chen, jumping in. Long Chen's full power attack created a hole in the void that led to another path. The two paths were originally separated by a spatial barrier, but Long Chen had pierced through it and jumped through. The Dragonblood warriors followed close on his heels. The hole quickly closed, but the Dragonblood warriors were used to working together and had moved to the other path with more than enough time. The life forms that were on that path were badly shocked by their sudden appearance. They stared at the Dragonblood warriors like they were monsters. The void began to rumble. Fragments of space-time flew, causing the world to twist. A terrifying pressure appeared, shaking people's hearts. The life forms on the path were too terrified to move. That pressure was targeted toward the Dragonblood Legion. Long Chen's actions had clearly infuriated the laws of the Netherworld. "Let's go!" Long Chen shouted, ignoring the changes in the void. He started charging forward. Flashes of divine light descended as the entire world seemed to be attempting to kill Long Chen. The laws of the Netherworld did not possess their own sentience. Having confirmed that Long Chen was the one who had destroyed its laws, while the Dragonblood warriors were just accessories to the crime, the majority of the attacks concentrated on Long Chen. Long Chen went all out, charging through the laws. The other life forms fled, afraid of being drawn into that tumultuous flood. Split the heavens 8. Long Chen once more unleashed a powerful attack that tore through the spatial barrier, revealing another path. Run! This time, there was no hesitation at all from the Dragonblood Legion. They charged through as soon as the hole appeared. Within the Nethergod Palace, Ming Songyue was in shock as she watched Long Chen. What is he doing? Has he gone insane? Look at Half-Life Half-Death Bridge. Leng Yueyan was looking in a different direction. With Leng Yueyan's reminder, Ming Songyue looked over at the bridge through the holders of evil. Her eyes widened. What is going on? The bridge was slowly circulating with black and white light. As life forms passed, black and white ripples would appear to decide their fate, to decide who lived and who died. Half-Life Half-Death Bridge was the final part of the Netherpassage path, as well as the cruelest. Only by crossing this bridge was it possible to advance. No one could escape this bridge. The ripples along the bridge covered everyone that crossed it. However, right now, the bridge was undergoing an alarming change. The black and white ripples, which were originally following an orderly sequence, were growing chaotic. The entire bridge would sometimes go entirely black and then entirely white. It was shaking. The railings on the two sides blazed with light, seeming to be attempting to stabilize the bridge, but it was ineffective. Half-Life Half-Death Bridge is being affected by Long Chen. Ming Songyue could barely believe it. As the god of the netherworld, she had never seen such a thing. This bridge was not something that she or anyone else was able to control. There had never been a life form causing such trouble like Long Chen. By breaking through the spatial barriers, the order of the Netherpassage path was thrown into chaos, affecting Half-Life Half-Death Bridge. Long Chen found a way to pass with everyone together, said Leng Yueyan. But how is that possible? The laws of the netherworld can't be destroyed, especially not by a mortal. Perhaps others can't, but you know that he is Long Chen, a heaven-defying existence. Leng Yueyan was confident, but she then sighed. That fool Long Chen, he knew we wanted to help him and were willing to pay a steep price to do so. However, he didn't want to implicate us, so he decided to do things on his own. Leng Yueyan was more familiar with Long Chen's character. He was very prideful. He liked helping others and didn't require them to repay him, but he very rarely wanted to trouble others or accept their help. This was a perfect example. Leng Yueyan had already laid a path for him, but he refused to walk it. He wanted to walk his own path. The void rumbled and a giant bolt of lightning struck Long Chen. Long Chen slashed with his own thunder force, blowing apart the lightning. Long Chen was shocked by the power of this lightning. Lei Long's pure yang element lightning was able to counter the lightning here very effectively, to the point of blocking 80 to 90% of its power. However, what got through was still difficult for Long Chen to endure. He felt like his soul was being torn. Long Chen faced the main attacks, while the Dragonblood warriors were affected by the leftovers. They felt dizzy, like they might vomit. Boom! Long Chen stabbed through the void again. However, this time, his power was clearly a bit lacking. The hole he created wasn't big enough for everyone to pass at once. Boom! Fortunately, Long Chen was prepared and unleashed a second attack. The spatial hole was just starting to fuse back when it was torn open even wider. Just at this moment, another attack struck Long Chen, and even doing his best to defend, he coughed up blood and was knocked back. Long Chen had figured out the rhythm of this place. Every time he tore through the spatial barrier to another channel, the laws of this place would reset their attempt at killing him. Their first attack was always the easiest to block, while the second attack doubled the power, and the third attack doubled the power once more. It would continue until the target was destroyed. The only way to survive was to constantly switch paths. If he stopped, he would be killed. Long Chen had started from the weakest path. As he charged into the stronger paths, the spatial barriers grew harder to break, and the attacks he faced grew deadlier. By the time he reached the sixth path, an attack fell from the void before he even managed to step onto the ground. As a result, cracks appeared all over Long Chen's body, making the others jump. If the Yuan spirit shattered, it would signify death. Dragonblood cross/. shouted Long Chen. The Dragon Blood warriors immediately summoned their Dragon Blood battle armor and activated their manifestations. Their power surged toward him. Boom! Long Chen unleashed a far more powerful blow, instantly breaking the spatial barrier. Before the second attack could descend, he and the others had entered the next path. Ming Songyue was shocked to find that the ripples on Half-Life Half-Death Bridge had actually ceased. However, after a few seconds, they began moving erratically once more. I understand. Ming Songyue suddenly cried out. Long Chen is drawing all the energy of the Netherpassage path to fixing the destroyed spatial laws and killing the offender. By throwing the balance of power into disorder, he is able to make Half-Life Half-Death Bridge lose its effect for a short time. He wants to rush through it during that brief moment. What a crazy idea. But how did he understand these laws of the Netherpassage path? We didn't even know about this. Long Chen was just a mortal. How could he know secrets about the Netherworld that even she didn't? In all her years being god of the Netherworld, this was her first time seeing such a thing and the resulting consequences. If she didn't know, then Leng Yueyan couldn't possibly know either. So how had Long Chen known? Long Chen charged through the next two strongest barriers with the support of the Dragon Blood Legion. As he charged through the last one, he reached the entrance to Half-Life Half-Death Bridge. The bridge's runes had gone dark. It had lost all its effect. Long Chen and the others had just appeared within the ninth path when a giant sword condensed at the end and pierced toward him. This was the strongest attack so far. It was like all the power of the Netherpassage path had been concentrated into this attack to make sure that Long Chen and the others supporting him were killed. All of them were locked down by that power. Even though the bridge was right in front of them, they couldn't move. Evil Moon trembled in Long Chen's hands. Everyone, don't be afraid. All the power here targets the will. My strongest aspect is my will. Some insignificant laws of the Netherworld think they can destroy me? I, Long Chen, am the ruler of the 9 stars. Heaven and earth are within my palm. The stars are trampled beneath my feet. Gods and devils are only fit to crawl beneath my feet. A few little laws are nothing in my eyes. At that moment, it felt like Long Chen had become a different person. Even his way of talking had changed, possessing a new kind of arrogance. His pupils had become pitch black at some point, and he even seemed a bit deranged. It's here again. Evil Moon looked at Long Chen, seeing that old image. Evil Moon slashed out. This attack wasn't split the heavens. It was an ordinary slash, but a wild and indomitable will exploded out of it, causing the entire Netherworld to shudder. Long Chen's saber landed on the giant sword, and a huge explosion rocked the path. The spatial barriers separating the paths were blown apart. As a result, Long Chen and the others were sent flying by that terrifying power. The immense power was like a tsunami throwing them into the air. They felt like their souls were being crushed. Their heads were blank. Quick, run. Long Chen's voice sounded like it was coming from a great distance away, but it woke them from their semi-conscious state. Taking note of their surroundings once more, they saw that the void had been destroyed. Countless broken runes were whirling through the air. The 9 paths were revealed to everyone, and at the end of all the paths was the bridge. Long Chen's saber had unleashed extraordinary power containing an invisible will that clashed against the laws of the Netherpassage path. Long Chen. When Meng Qi saw Long Chen, she let out a shocked cry. Both of Long Chen's arms had been destroyed by the laws, and his body was covered in cracks. He looked to be on the verge of shattering into 1,000,000 pieces. Meng Qi grabbed Long Chen and pulled him along. In his current state, he couldn't receive any further impacts at all. The bridge's runes had gone completely dark. The Dragon Blood warriors ran across it as fast as possible. If it was during normal times, they could reach the end in a single step. But they were affected by the laws of the Netherworld and couldn't fly. The void behind them rumbled as the laws slowly restored themselves. The spatial barriers reformed. Faster, shouted Long Chen. When the barriers recovered, the laws of the bridge would receive energy and activate once more. At that time, half of the Dragon Blood warriors would die. Long Chen had sent his spiritual strength through to this place before. He had used the primal chaos bead's power to run simulations of various possibilities. Longchen didn't know how to read the future or anything. However, he found that by borrowing the power of the primal chaos bead, he was able to undergo a dreamlike simulation in this place. During his simulations, he had died countless times. In the end, he had found one possibility, but even then, he had still died. However, that was the only option he had found after so many simulations. There were always differences between reality and simulations, so that was his best bet. The Dragonblood warriors roared as they charged forward. Long Chen's arms slowly regrew, and the cracks on his body healed. There were no attacks coming for him from the bridge. All the energy of the Netherpassage path was focused on restoring the 9 paths behind them. "Boss, the runes are about to recover," shouted Guoran. Just before charging into the last path, Long Chen had explained his goal of redirecting the energy of the bridge to make it lose effect. However, right now, the Dragonblood warriors had only gotten halfway across the bridge. At this speed, there was no way they could make it. Double dragon destruction. Long Chen roared, sending Lei Long and Hua Long crashing against the 9 paths behind them, once more tearing apart the laws that were healing. "Attack together," shouted Long Chen. Everyone turned back to unleash their own attacks at the paths. The Dragonblood warriors unleashed all their power, but they found that their attacks had far too little effect compared to Long Chen's attack. Is the difference really so great? The Dragonblood warriors were startled. Long Chen had said that the laws here could only be torn apart by powerful wills. They had thought that their wills were already strong enough. On the Martial Heaven continent, they stood at the peak amongst all experts in this regard. However, in the face of the Netherworld's laws, their attacks were unable to cause any real damage. Fortunately, with their numbers, they were able to buy some time. Guoran unleashed 2 arrows and found that they didn't have any use. With a furious roar, he summoned his battle armor and slashed his saber. He found that his saber image faded before even reaching his target. No way, Guoran turned green. Was his will really so powerful? So his will was so weak that the laws here couldn't sense his existence. After Long Chen's double dragon destruction, the space back there was badly damaged once more, but the others' attacks only slowed down the recovery slightly. They couldn't tear it apart once more. "Faster!" Everyone shouted. They had reached the last half of the bridge, but the space back there was starting to heal. They were still a bit too slow. Once the space healed, the runes on the bridge would activate, killing half of them. All their previous efforts would be for nothing. How could this be? My intuition told me that this was the only option. The 9-star Hegemon body art couldn't have tricked me. Long Chen had exhausted all his power and no longer possessed the energy to tear apart the spatial laws back there. Just like his final simulation, he was still missing something. They were only a few miles away from the end, but they weren't going to make it. There was a giant plaza at the end of the bridge, and there was a statue at the center of it. The statue was a winged monstrosity. It had its hands open in front of it. Moreover, there was a sphere rocking back and forth within its arms like a pendulum. The left hand was white as jade, while the right hand was black as ink. From Long Chen's previous observations, when the sphere was in the left hand, the white runes on the bridge would light up, and when the sphere swayed to the black hand, the black runes would light up. The two alternated. This was the crux upon which the bridge's laws were built. However, no one could reach it. Long Chen had tried to break it in his simulations. As a result, 36 giant hands had appeared in the void and smashed him to bits without him having any chance to resist. He had tried many times without being able to approach the statue, so he had given up and been forced to rely on his method of redirecting the energy to fix broken laws. These few miles separating them would only take half a step to cross on the Martial Heaven continent, but here, it was like a heavenly chasm separating them from success. A divine rune started to glow on the statue's head at this moment. The sphere started to move once more. Black and white lines spread throughout the bridge. In just a few seconds, the laws of half-life half-death bridge would reactivate. No, the 9-star Hegemon body art couldn't have tricked me. My intuition can't be wrong. This is the only way. I must be missing something. Long Chen started to panic. He tried to think of what he had missed. At that moment, his gaze fell upon Guoran, who was unleashing exploding arrows at the statue. Those arrows were obliterated by the laws before they got close to the statue. "Guoran!" shouted Long Chen. "Boss, I'm here." Guoran jumped and turned back. "Guoran, you're the only one who can save everyone. Do as I say." Long Chen transmitted instructions to Guoran. He passed a long chain, and before Guoran could say anything, kicked him through the air. Guoran shot out like a cannonball, flying toward the statue. Long Chen had calculated his power perfectly, allowing Guoran to land within the left hand just as his momentum started to drop. Everyone was startled by this. They didn't know why Long Chen said that Guoran was the only one that could save them. When he saw that Guoran had landed safely within the left hand, Long Chen clenched his fists. His guess was right. The laws here couldn't sense Guoran. Long Chen was gambling on his intuition, or more accurately the intuition of the 9-star hegemon body art. He had absolute confidence in it, but this related to everyone's life and death, so he couldn't help being nervous. "Quick, retreat!" shouted Long Chen. The runes on the ground were starting to light up. If the light shone on them, their fates would be decided. Everyone hastily fell back. The light continued to spread closer and closer to them, much faster than they were retreating. They would be caught up in just a few seconds. Guoran wrapped the chains around the oscillating sphere. When the sphere swayed into the white hand, Guoran tightened the chains and wrapped them around his wrist. Creaking sounds rang out as the sphere was suddenly locked in place and unable to return to the black hand. "Success!" Long Chen cried out excitedly. The black and white runes had been about to reach their feet, but now the black runes faded away, leaving only the white runes shining. "Run!" shouted Long Chen. Everyone hastily rushed over the bridge. Just as they all reached the end of the bridge, an explosive sound came from the statue. The chains exploded, allowing the sphere to once more begin swaying back and forth between the black and white hands. Half-Life Half-Death Bridge's order was restored to normal, but the Dragonblood Legion had charged through. "Haha, did you see? All your lives were saved by me. I, Guoran, am the savior of today." Guoran jumped off the bridge, exceptionally pleased with himself. "Good job. You really are the savior." Long Chen would usually give Guoran a blow when he was acting so pleased with himself. But today, Long Chen patted him on the shoulder. Before this, everyone liked to tease Guoran for having such a weak will. During every tribulation or trial, he cried and begged to be let off. No one had thought that here his weak will would be a trump card that saved the Dragonblood Legion. Just at this moment, rays of divine light descended from the sky, enveloping the Dragonblood warriors. Within the Nethergod Palace, both Ming Zongyue and Leng Yueyan sighed with relief. Only now did Ming Zongyue realize that her palms were covered in sweat. Ever since she had taken control of the Netherworld, her days had been dull and tasteless. In all those years, this was her first time being so nervous. Leng Yueyan wasn't much better off. She was clenching the Nethergod Order. If Long Chen had been in danger, she would have immediately activated it. She could have used the Nethergod Order to send them past the bridge right before they were devoured by the runes. If they had been devoured, even the Nethergod Order would have been powerless. Leng Yueyan looked at Ming Zongyue and suddenly smiled. "How was that? Wasn't it stimulating? I'm telling you, Long Chen's ability to court death is unrivaled within all the 10 million worlds. Being with him every day will be stimulating." Ming Zongyue also smiled. She sighed. "Now I really believe you. He has his own fate. Our help is a disguised form of changing that fate. I wonder if he refused to accept it or if his fate refused to accept it. Looking back, it seems more like his own fate refused to accept our help. If you had used the Nethergod Order, they could have survived, but the Netherpassage divine light would not activate to cleanse their souls. That would leave behind a mark when they ascend. So Long Chen chose his own fate, and it was the right path. The crazy thing is that the crux upon which this fate turned was actually a fellow with ant-like willpower. I suppose the world is vast enough to contain all kinds of oddities. Thinking of how the one who had broken the system was actually Guoran, Ming Songyue was especially amazed. Do you want to go see him? It might be several years before you see him again otherwise, asked Leng Yueyan. Ming Songyue looked at Long Chen within the image. Then she looked at Meng Qi, Chu Yao, and the others. She shook her head. Leng Yueyan asked, What, are you jealous? A bit, I suppose. I'm not used to this. Perhaps after having my goodness carved out, what remains becomes antisocial and selfish. Although our souls are one again after being with him, I'm still the original true body. Some things are just very difficult to change, sighed Ming Songyue. Hee, the reason you're thinking like that is because of your position as a god. You don't want to share with a bunch of mortal girls. A dragon might share with another dragon, but not with some ants. That's fine. Our man will grow into someone on the same level as us very soon. He'll definitely be bringing everyone else along with him. You won't have such a feeling at that time, chortled Leng Yueyan. Hopefully that day comes soon. I'm going into seclusion. I've obtained many things from Long Chen that I need to digest. I leave the netherworld to you. As for Long Chen, tell him, I miss him. Ming Songyue blushed slightly before vanishing. Is it not over? The descent of the divine light startled Long Chen as well. However, it didn't harm them. Don't panic. This is the reward for passing the Netherpassage path. The power of the netherworld's life and death energy will purify your Yuan spirits and imprint the laws of life, death, and samsara onto them. That way, you'll gradually come into contact with the life, death, and samsara realm. Suddenly, the void twisted and a black-dressed Leng Yueyan appeared. Divine light filled the air. The countless runes within heaven and earth flowed toward her, showing their subservience. This kind of phenomenon was truly the sight of a god descending upon the world. Leng Yueyan had been a peerless beauty before, but adding on her god energy, she made people feel an urge to prostrate themselves before her. However, seeing her made everyone else jump. They recognized her. How had she appeared here? Leng Yueyan's aura was completely different from before. With her god energy, they sensed that she could exterminate all life with just a thought. Although they had never seen a god before, they knew that the current Leng Yueyan was a god. Are you here to celebrate with us? Long Chen smiled. Leng Yueyan slowly descended from the sky. When she landed on the ground, countless divine runes lit up, forming a black carpet for her. Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Wan'er, and Yi Zhiqiu had complicated expressions as they looked at Leng Yueyan. They knew that Leng Yueyan's relationship with Long Chen was not ordinary, but they had also never asked Long Chen about it. Even Tang Wan'er hadn't asked because Meng Qi told her not to. If Long Chen wanted to tell them, he would tell them himself. If he didn't, then let him be. It would only embarrass him. The most unexpected thing, though, was that the former devil empress of the corrupt path had actually become the netherworld's god. They didn't know what to feel about that. They naturally felt lacking in front of her. After all, she was a god. There's no time for a celebration. I came not for you, but for my sisters. Leng Yueyan shook her head and ignored Long Chen, walking over to Meng Qi and the others. Hearing that Leng Yueyan was actually calling them sisters, Meng Qi and the others were shocked. They glanced at Long Chen suspiciously. Could it be? Hee, we're all one family. Yes, a family. Long Chen smiled, but that smile was awkward in the face of their suspicious glances. Long Chen hadn't brought up Leng Yueyan to Meng Qi and the others. The main reason was that there was no way to speak of those matters. By calling them sisters, Leng Yueyan was explicitly stating their relationship. Long Chen felt a burning sensation despite his thick skin. Standing in front of them, Leng Yueyan still made Meng Qi and the others feel inferior. Despite all being peerless beauties as a god, Leng Yueyan possessed her own air. In the past, they had known Leng Yueyan to be beautiful, lofty, and merciless. Now she inspired even greater respect. Our netherworld doesn't have many good gifts. I've only been able to prepare a few small things, so please accept them, said Leng Yueyan. Big Sister Meng Qi, as the first to meet Long Chen, you must naturally be called Big Sister. This necklace is something I specially prepared for you. She took out a necklace shining with all the colors of the rainbow. The divine light coming from it made the surroundings look like a fantasy world. There was a pendant on the necklace with a blue gemstone embedded into it. When Mengqi saw that blue gemstone, she let out a startled cry. Although she didn't recognize it, just by being near it, she could sense her own soul energy growing. This was a treasure capable of improving the speed of a soul cultivator. This necklace is made of the Netherworld's 9 Revolution gold essence. Combined with the Nether Soul Stone, it will allow you to cultivate your soul twice as fast and surpass the limit of your spiritual strength. Although Netherworld's objects lose most of their effect upon entering the Martial Heaven continent, it will still increase your cultivation speed immensely. Leng Yueyan personally placed the necklace over Mengqi's neck. With the necklace, Mengqi was enveloped in its light, making her seem like another god. Thank you, big sister. This was precisely what she needed to get stronger. Leng Yueyan smiled and turned to Chu Yao. When it comes to qualifications, perhaps everyone should call you big sister. After all, you were the first to get close to Long Chen. However, since Long Chen had a childhood marriage agreement with big sister Mengqi, she must be the biggest. But I will still call you big sister. I wouldn't dare to accept. Chu Yao was a bit nervous. To have a god call her big sister, she felt trepidation. There's nothing wrong about it. Big sister possesses a wood spirit body, so I will give you a wooden staff. Leng Yueyan took out a completely black staff. Is this firewood? Guoran mumbled to himself. Don't spout nonsense. This is a priceless treasure. I truly must thank big sister for this. Chu Yao received the staff and was first stunned before becoming wildly ecstatic. Leng Yueyan said, this was created from the moon fusang tree's heart. It contains yin and yang energy. Blades cannot harm it. Water and fire cannot damage it. Most importantly, it is a divine item that will constantly grow as you nourish it. It will not be influenced by the Martial Heaven continent's laws. As long as you take care of it, it will give you a pleasant surprise. Thank you, truly thank you. This is the best weapon I've ever had. Chu Yao was truly grateful. This gift was also something that she needed. Wanna, right? I'll call you little sister because you're just too cute. I've always really liked you. Leng Yueyan turned to smile at Tangwan. Yes, thank you, big sister. Tangwaner spoke surprisingly sweetly and cutely, making Long Chen speechless. Where was this meek girl when she spoke to him? Little sister, you're a wind element cultivator. What I'm giving you might be a bit dangerous. If you can't control it well, don't randomly use it. Leng Yueyan took out 2 crescent moon blades. Space rumbled. The crescent moon blades were only 3 inches long when they first appeared. They were like 2 transparent knives. However, rumbling then rang out as divine energy flowed toward them. The terrifying wind energy formed a vortex around them, and even the non-wind cultivators could sense a terrifying aura coming from them. Tangwaner was instantly delighted by the 2 blades. Her eyes also became like 2 crescent moons from her smile. Thank you, big sister, you really treat me well. This is my favorite design. Tangwaner shouted excitedly like a child. I've seen you fight, so I know your style, said Leng Yueyan. I specifically hunted down a divine devil overlord within the Netherworld's wastelands, and I created this pair of crescent moon blades from its horns. It is also a divine item capable of growing along with you. There are 3 divine runes on it that you will be able to activate when you grow strong enough. They will unleash extremely powerful divine abilities. I heard from a certain person that little sister Waner gets jealous easily, so I did everything I could to think of a good gift for you. I hope you like it. Tang Waner immediately grew angry. Which gossiper said such a thing? Am I such a person? I like big sister a lot. I wish you could return with us to the Martial Heaven continent. Although neither of them said anything explicitly, the gossiper was naturally Long Chen. Long Chen almost cried. Was he really such a person? This foolish girl forgot about her loyalty to her man as soon as she got a nice present. Tangwaner received the 2 moon blades. She suddenly waved one of her hands, and the moon blade unleashed a wind blade straight at Long Chen. Long Chen instinctively dodged. The wind blade cut across his leg, leaving a giant slice. His life rod had almost been cut off, making Guoran and the others suck in a cold gasp of air. Long Chen's expression immediately darkened. What are you doing? Even if you want to suck up to her, you don't need to castrate me. Sorry, it wasn't on purpose. I didn't think that these crescent moon blades would be so amazing. I still can't control them. Tang Wan'er stuck her tongue out at him, a bit embarrassed. She had just been testing one, thinking that their power was under her control. As a result, as soon as she activated one, she injured Long Chen. Sister Wanna, you should put those blades away. We're not boss, so we can't dodge that quickly. Guoran and the others felt a chill when Tang Wan'er turned around. Looking closely at the two blades, they all retreated. Little Sister Jiqiu, you already have a divine weapon, so I don't have a weapon for you. This ice spirit bracelet should suit you very well. It will purify your ice energy. Leng Yueyan gave Jiqiu a bracelet, and ice crystals flowed within it. Glacier designs appeared and faded. This bracelet was clearly not ordinary. Jiqiu was grateful, but she didn't say anything. She just nodded to express her thanks. Leng Yueyan also knew Jiqiu's character, so she didn't take offense. She turned to Dong Mingyu. Little sister, you have Imputa's divine mark on you. It's not a good idea for me to give you anything for fear of invoking karma. I hope you won't blame me. No, just seeing what kind of person you are makes me happy enough. You are the greatest gift. Dong Mingyu smiled, her gaze a bit worshipful. She had always respected Leng Yueyan. When she had been a disciple of the corrupt path, she had always followed her own will. Dong Mingyu wished to also be like that one day, to do what she wanted to do. Leng Yueyan smiled. Really, if you put it like that, I'll feel ashamed of myself. Let me think, what can I give you? Leng Yueyan thought about it. Her eyes suddenly lit up. That's right, Imputa has a set of techniques called the Heavenly Desolation Extinction Art. Have you learned it? No, I've never heard of it. Good. When you return to the Martial Heaven continent, find your divine inheritance statue. Do this. Leng Yueyan leaned down and whispered into Dong Mingyu's ear. All right, I'll do it once I get back. Dong Mingyu's eyes were shining, but no one else knew what Leng Yueyan had said. Some secrets were naturally not for everyone to know. Perhaps they were afraid of karma, so no one asked. Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Wan'er, Jiqiu, and Dong Mingyu had all received gifts. However, that wasn't all. Even Cloud and Lu Ruyan were given gifts. Leng Yueyan had printed a rune on each of their foreheads. Those runes activated the primordial runes within their bloodlines, allowing them to regain the power of their ancestors, making the two of them incredibly grateful. Seeing that she stopped giving gifts there, Guoran grew uneasy. He respectfully said, "This god elder sister-in-law, your generosity and kindness fills me with worship. Bathed in your divine light, I feel reborn. My life before this was gray, but your arrival has brought color dash. Get to the point," said Leng Yueyan indifferently. About that, is there a gift for this little brother? Asked Guoran expectantly. Leng Yueyan looked at him apologetically. There isn't. Your soul and will are too weak. Even if I gave you something, you wouldn't be able to merge it into your soul and bring it out. To tell the truth, you are so weak that it surpasses all expectations. Meng Qi and the others laughed at his expression. Even the other Dragonblood warriors couldn't help shaking their heads. Their boss Guoran had truly received a grievous blow this time. But just now, I was the one who saved the entire Dragonblood Legion, cried out Guoran, refusing to accept this. Even his boss had been unable to do anything, but he had done it. That's also because of your boss. Those chains came from purgatory and are also not within the scope of the laws here. That's why you succeeded. All right, I'll tell you the truth. You are not suited for a soul divine item because it will cost you your life, said Leng Yueyan. What? Because your soul is too weak. A divine item of this level has its own will. If you merge it into your soul, you will not be able to be its master, and the divine item will take over your mind, turning you into its slave. That's why you can only use divine items that you create yourself. You can imprint them with your own will so that they won't devour you, explained Leng Yueyan. Guoran looked down gloomily. All right, boss also said the same thing. Now I'm convinced. Cough, Yueyan, our relationship is so good, so while it's understandable that there's no gift for them, I'm sure that you won't have forgotten about me? At this time, Longchen also made his move. If Leng Yueyan had prepared gifts for all of them, then it was natural that he should have one as well. Oh, is our relationship really so good? Leng Yueyan looked at Longchen questioningly. Longchen was speechless. It wasn't as if he could say what had happened between them in front of Meng Qi and the others. Leng Yueyan laughed and leaned down to whisper into his ear, "Didn't I already give you my gift?" She winked suggestively, making Longchen realize that she was talking about her other self, Ming Zongyue. "I got that gift through my own ability," said Longchen. "If I hadn't built the bridge, could you have obtained her?" retorted Leng Yueyan. "Fine, I admit you helped. Why didn't Zongyue come? She didn't want to send me off?" asked Longchen. Leng Yueyan said, "She wanted to come, but the laws here only permit one god to descend at a time. So only I came." "Oh, alright. Please tell her that I will think about her every day." "Of course, you're included in that," said Longchen. Just at that moment, startled cries rang out. Guoran had vanished. No need to panic. Guoran's Yuan spirit has been filled up with the energy of this blessing, so he has been sent back, said Leng Yueyan. During this time, the light from the sky was constantly nourishing their Yuan spirits. Following Guoran, other Dragonblood warriors began to vanish one by one. At this moment, it was possible to see the difference between people's Yuan spirits. The weaker ones were sent away first. The stronger ones were being nourished longer. The Dragonblood warriors gradually vanished. Then it was Gu Yang and the captains, then even Meng Qi and the others. In the end, only Long Chen and Leng Yueyan were left. "Yueyan, when people die, do they come to the land of the Netherworld?" asked Long Chen. "Yes. You are the god in control of the Netherworld. Can you revive my old friends who died?" asked Long Chen. With Meng Qi and the others gone, he could finally ask this question. Some Dragonblood warriors had died, and there was also Lu Feng. Lu Feng'o was a constant ache in Long Chen and Meng Qi's hearts. Sometimes when Meng Qi was alone, she would stare out into space. Long Chen knew that she was thinking about her days with Lu Feng. Lu Feng had joked back then that she would marry Long Chen with Meng Qi. She would be fine being just an extra. But in the Jiuli's secret realm, she had sacrificed herself to save Meng Qi. At that time, Yi Zhiqiu had also died, but an expert had revived her because a seed of her soul had remained intact. Lu Feng'er's corpse remained, but her life had been lost forever. Long Chen's voice quivered when he asked this question. He looked at Leng Yueyan expectantly. Leng Yueyan looked at Long Chen and shook her head. "It is impossible." Long Chen felt like he had been struck by lightning. "But aren't you the god of the Netherworld? Don't you control reincarnation dash?" Long Chen. Leng Yueyan pressed a hand on his shoulder and sighed. "You're thinking too simply. The Netherworld isn't the Netherworld within the stories of your martial heaven continent. Our Netherworld is just one tiny region of the 10 planar worlds. This place is just one of the millions of Netherworlds. Even all the Netherworlds added up together would only count as one of the planar worlds. It has its own laws, especially as it corresponds to the other worlds. The cycle of life and death connects the 10 planar worlds. If you want to go against these laws, you'd have to be the master of the 10 planar worlds." Leng Yueyan was helpless. The 10 planar worlds had stopped being complete a long time ago. Perhaps even becoming the ruler of what remained wouldn't be enough. However, she couldn't bear to tell him that it was impossible, so she gave him some distant hope. Long Chen sighed deeply. Leng Yueyan wouldn't lie to him about this. It seemed that the stories were just stories. They were far from reality. So even gods have limits. Just as you said, mortals and gods are the same. It's just a difference in power. Being born in the sea of bitterness, once you cross it, you'll only be thrown into a bigger one with more dangers, said Leng Yueyan. "What? Are you and Zongyue in danger?" Long Chen noticed something in what she said. All life struggles. But talking about it now is meaningless. Time's about up. I was originally planning on giving you a chance to subdue me, but it doesn't seem like you're in the mood. Work hard at your cultivation. Once you reach that level, you can handle any problems you face. The key that unlocks all those problems is simply power, said Leng Yueyan. Just at this moment, Long Chen felt the world twist. A powerful suction force dragged him away from this world. Long Chen forcibly resisted that power and embraced Leng Yueyan. A rare warmth appeared on her face, and she kissed him on the cheek. My man, work hard. I look forward to the next time when you can subdue me. The void rumbled. Powerful spatial energy tore Long Chen away, and he felt the void shatter into countless pieces. Everything vanished. Leng Yueyan was gone, and Long Chen suddenly found himself standing outside two giant gates. They were the gates of hell. The Dragonblood warriors were standing outside as well. Seeing Long Chen arrive, Guoran immediately asked, "Boss, how was it? Did you get anything good?" Long Chen irritably said, "Do you think your boss has as little integrity as you? Would I go around begging for other people's things? As long as you can get something good, what's wrong with begging? Even if I have to make a terrible scene and kowtow, it's not a loss," said Guoran righteously. Meng Qi and the others had all obtained perfect gifts for themselves and were excitedly chatting about them. Even the icy Yi Zhiqiu was delighted. Guoran was incredibly jealous. However, he wasn't Long Chen's lover, so he had no share. He could only place all his hopes on Long Chen. If Long Chen got something good, he would definitely share. Long Chen had always shown special care for Guoran. Hearing that Long Chen had wasted so much time with Leng Yueyan without getting anything, he felt it was regretful. He grumbled that Long Chen refused to lower his head and beg for a treasure, making Long Chen have an urge to slap him. This fellow really was shameless. Curious, why are the gates of hell now devoid of anyone else? Only now did Long Chen take note that there were no other life forms here other than the Dragonblood Legion. It really is odd. There's also no 9-colored waterfall, only a bridge leading to a transportation portal, said Guoyang. While waiting for Long Chen, they had already scouted the terrain. This place was completely different from when they had entered. Long Chen looked at the majestic gates. At the top, they still said Gates of Hell. There couldn't be a mistake. However, when he carefully appraised them, he suddenly let out a cry. These gates aren't the ones we entered from. The nail that he had taken from the Gates of Hell had still been missing when they had come in, but now there wasn't a single nail missing. Long Chen guessed that there were two sets of gates, one leading in and one leading out. They were at the exit, so the nails were all intact. Looking at the perfectly intact gates, a strange light began to shine in Long Chen's eyes, prompting Evil Moon to ask, "Are you getting ideas toward the gates again?" Evil Moon truly understood Long Chen. His spiritual fluctuations in particular could not escape it. Long Chen was getting greedy again. "Are you joking?" Long Chen shook his head. Turning to everyone, he said, "Let's go home. We don't know how many days have passed on the Martial Heaven continent. We should hurry." Everyone walked past toward the spatial portal. The Dragonblood warriors stepped through one by one. Runes enveloped them, and they became lethargic. It was like they were in water, and their bodies rapidly floated up into the sky, vanishing within the darkness. Once everyone else had walked in, the only ones left were Guoran and Long Chen. He hadn't let him go. "Boss, what is it?" asked Guoran. "We didn't get a gift this time, so don't you think it'd be embarrassing if we left empty-handed?" Long Chen chortled. "Boss, you mean, bandits don't leave empty-handed. No matter what, we have to bring a little bit back. Come with me." Long Chen led Guoran back to the gates. "Boss, are you thinking of tearing down the gates?" exclaimed Guoran. These gates were so big that he couldn't even imagine doing such a thing. "You're overestimating your boss. I don't have that ability. Last time, I only got a nail and almost died in the process," said Long Chen. "Damn, so it really was you." Guoran's jaw dropped. Before he had joked that no one other than his boss would have dared to take the nail, and now he found that it was true. "Of course it was me. Otherwise, D Long's clone would have killed me back then. This time, I don't want a nail. Last time, the nail lost most of its power after being brought into the Martial Heaven continent. It also felt like it withered after leaving the gates, like a tree being pulled from soil. A nail isn't useful enough to us. It probably wouldn't even be able to do anything to a fourth-step Netherpassage expert, said Long Chen. Then what are we stealing? A door bolt? Guoran looked at the gates. There were 4 door bolts on the gates. If they were taken, one smash of them could annihilate an area of life. Long Chen shook his head. Those bolts are definitely good, but we can't get them. There are locks stopping us. Moreover, the runes of the bolts are connected to the gates, and they'll also lose most of their power after leaving the gates. Then there's nothing else. Do you see those 2 door knockers? They're the faces of 2 ghosts. Those are definitely treasures, and their runes are their own bodies. Even once they leave the gates, they won't grow much weaker. They can be used as a shield or a weapon to smash people. There are 2, and it just so happens that there are 2 of us. How does one each sound? Long Chen smiled wickedly. But can we really get them? It feels impossible, said Guoran. It won't be a problem. There are 4 rivets holding each knocker, but the runes of the rivets aren't very powerful. Most likely, they were only added to intimidate others and aren't actually used to protect the gates. It shouldn't be too hard to take them. Long Chen had already decided. Boss, what do you need me to do? Guoran made his resolution. If he really could get a knocker from the gates of hell, that would be enough for him to brag about for a lifetime. It was too tempting for him to resist. I'll give you all the purgatory chains I have. You just wrap them around the 2 knockers and leave the rest to me. I have quite a few chains, and you'll need to bring them up one by one since you can't use the power of your Yuan spirit without the gates sensing you. Long Chen passed the chains over to Guoran. Long Chen had obtained many chains from purgatory, but they weren't long enough, so he had linked many of them together. With the first chain, Guoran carefully crept up the gates of hell. He really was like an ant climbing them. The gates didn't react at all, as if they couldn't sense his existence. That made Long Chen relax. After binding the knockers with the chains, Guoran tied them all together with a giant rope to make sure the chains were bound as tightly as possible. All right, you can go, Guoran. Otherwise, when a certain fellow comes out to kill me, I won't be able to protect you, said Long Chen. Guoran immediately fled. Once he was gone, Long Chen realized that there was only 1 rune left at the exit, when there had been many brilliant runes at the start. That made Long Chen realize that there were quotas for leaving. However many people arrived here was however many people could leave. Less than the max could leave, but not more. Seeing Guoran leave, Long Chen took a deep breath. Evil Moon took this moment to warn him, Long Chen, this thing may be infected with karma. Do you really want it? Seeing something good and not taking it isn't my style. As for karma, who can say whether it's good or bad? Since that's the case, let's just close our eyes and do it. Long Chen suddenly yanked on the chains. His divine ring appeared, as well as all of his battle armor. The ground shattered from how hard he pulled. Boom! One of the door knockers left the gates. As he had predicted, their connection to the gates was not very sturdy. However, just as it left the gates, Long Chen's hair stood on end. A terrifying sense of danger filled his heart. It was like a beast of death had locked onto him. Boom! Long Chen once more pulled, dragging out the second knocker. Get in! Activating the Primal Chaos bead, the 2 giant knockers were pulled into the Primal Chaos space. He then immediately fled. Suddenly, the gates opened and a giant head stretched out of it. The head was black and even bigger than the gates. Holy, what the hell is that? Long Chen turned green. He couldn't see what exactly it was, but he saw a pair of giant eyes. Long Chen felt like his soul might flee his body. The head was so big that it couldn't squeeze any further out of the gates. It suddenly let out a furious roar. The void exploded, and Long Chen's soul almost dissipated. The head struggled to charge through the gates, and cracks actually started to appear all over them. It seems that I really did provoke a calamity. Long Chen was horrified to see that this monster was so powerful that it was even able to tear the gates of hell apart. Finally, the 2 gates exploded and a giant figure appeared. Bye! Long Chen charged through the exit, which immediately closed behind him. Even once Long Chen was gone, that giant figure continued to grow larger. It was so big that it was impossible to see its full form. However, it was possible to see that it had 3 heads. It was growing taller, and its back was swelling, as if it had been lying down and was now standing up. As it stood, countless chains thicker than mountains appeared on its back. The entire netherworld rocked. Within the Nethergod Palace, Leng Yueyan and Ming Zongyue, who had been preparing to go into seclusion, stared in shock as they watched what was going on. Ming Zongyue cried out, "That's the 3-headed heaven-devouring beast." It was suppressed and bound as soon as this netherworld was born. How could it have broken its seal? It was Long Chen. He tore off the seal, releasing it. That bastard, since we didn't give him anything, he actually took things himself. He has just planted a gargantuan karma, said Leng Yueyan, her expression odd. The thick chains binding the beast were torn apart one by one. In the end, that giant monster was free. It roared several times, causing the entire netherworld to shake. Suddenly, a pair of sharp claws appeared and sliced open a giant hole in the void. It stepped into that opening, vanishing. This is troublesome. The 3-headed heaven-devouring beast will throw the netherworld into chaos. It's going to return all its grievances at being caged 100 times over. Ming Zongyue was grave. On the other hand, Leng Yueyan smiled. It has nothing to do with us. The Netherpassage path's laws are separate. We can't control them, so it's not our responsibility. Furthermore, the more chaotic the netherworld grows, the more beneficial it is to us. Don't go into seclusion. People will come to investigate this matter soon, and we need to be prepared to face them. That fellow Hong Yaoyang will definitely try to add oil to the fire as well. Ming Zongyue nodded. Now that the 3-headed heaven-devouring beast had regained its freedom, this matter was entirely out of their control. Long Chen truly knew how to cause trouble. Long Chen opened his eyes. He stood, seeing that the other Dragonblood warriors were also awake in their bodies. They were examining themselves, sensing the changes they had undergone. Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Wan'er, and the others had surprised expressions. Meng Qi looked at the necklace on her neck in confusion. Chu Yao was the same, examining her new black staff with a puzzled expression. Everyone's memories regarding the Netherpassage path had vanished. They didn't know where these gifts had come from. Long Chen, what is going on? Did someone give you these gifts? Meng Qi looked at Long Chen curiously. Those were given to you by Leng Yueyan, said Long Chen. Long Chen gave a simple explanation about what had happened in the netherworld. After all, having accepted gifts from Leng Yueyan, they were already affected by her karma. There was no need to conceal it. By explaining what happened, he awakened the memories slumbering within them. They quickly remembered. Boss, did you succeed in the end? With their memories awakened, Guoran immediately asked about the door knockers. Hee, has your boss ever failed? Chortled Long Chen. He showed him the 2 door knockers. How are they so small? Their aura also isn't the same, said Guoran. It's due to the different laws between the netherworld and the martial heaven continent. You can research these knockers yourself. I already said, we'd split them 1 each. Hee, don't worry boss, I wouldn't dare to place my sights on your things, declared Guoran. Seeing that everyone had returned safe and sound, with their Yuan spirits powered up to a new level, Long Chen felt a heavy weight fall from his heart. When they came out of seclusion, they saw Yu Shaoqian waiting for them. She and the other experts of the original devil race had already advanced to the Netherpassage realm. Long Chen had wanted to undergo this journey with Yu Shaoqian, but Yu Shihan had said that the original devil race's people were different from the rest of the continent's life forms, and she couldn't go with them. Unexpectedly, Yu Shaoqian had been the first to break through. She had even undergone her tribulation to officially enter the Netherpassage realm. Long Chen, the outside world's growing chaotic. Yu Shaoqian immediately brought up bad news. What is it? Asked Long Chen. It's been half a year. Many people think that you've run into a problem. Pill Valley, the ancient races, the corrupt path, the ancient family alliance, the Xian beasts, they've all started making trouble for the righteous path again. Long Chen and the others were shocked to hear that half a year had passed here. They had felt it to only be a few days. In truth, what they didn't know was that they should have come out around the 3-month mark like the majority of the continent. However, They had been delayed while accepting the divine light blessing at the end of the Netherpassage path. That was an extremely special place, and the time they had lost there while Leng Yueyan distributed gifts had distorted their time here. As a result, they had spent an extra 3 months away from the continent. Most of the other experts on the continent had already finished breaking through and finished their tribulations. The Pill Fairy, Tian Xiezi, Kun Pingzi, Dongfang Yang, Shimen Tianxiong, Nangong Ziyu, Beiting Rushuang, Yi Lingshan, Emon Yen, and Hu Feng had all come out of seclusion. The martial heaven continent's power had soared. With their power on a new level, they had returned to the Yin-Yang world, with some of them even entering deeper into it. With everyone competing for the immemorial essence blood, things had gone well at first, but then some conflicts occurred. The righteous path had many experts but few elites. They were often bullied and pushed aside. The majority of the time, the righteous disciples were forced to endure. After all, there was a ceasefire and they weren't as powerful. Their territory was forcibly occupied by others. As time passed, the others seemed to get used to this and often expelled the righteous experts from the battlefields so that they couldn't obtain any of the essence blood. The righteous disciples were infuriated. Yi Lingshan had personally reported this matter to the divine families, but the reply was that the bigger the mouth, the more meat they could eat. In other words, if they couldn't deal with it, they should leave the battles to others. This was a clear bias toward the other powers that were targeting the righteous path. It was only later when Yi Lingshan investigated that she realized that the ones guarding the outside of the Yin-Yang world were no longer the warriors of the 8th Legion. They had been replaced by the 7th Legion. Yi Benchang. Hearing that, Long Qin narrowed his eyes, killing intent surfacing within them. Unexpectedly, the 8th Legion guarding the outside of the Yin-Yang world had been replaced by the 7th Legion. It was no wonder the righteous path was being bullied, while the divine families just watched. The commander of the 7th Legion was Yi Bencheng. He and Long Qin already had significant enmity toward each other. As the one in charge of that region, it would be a miracle if Yi Bencheng didn't try to cause trouble for him and the righteous path. The current righteous path is being pressured from all sides. Their share of the battlefields is shrinking, and some of their disciples have died. One of them caused quite a stir. The Xiantian Dao sect's Wanshan was killed by one of the Xian Beasts experts, said Yu Shaoqian. What? Everyone was infuriated. Wanshan was one of the Xiantian Dao sect's core disciples. He was a very rare insect cultivator with immense power. He had once fought alongside the Dragon Blood warriors. As a result, everyone's killing intent soared. That matter resulted in Yi Lingshan immediately declaring war on the Xian beasts. The Martial Heaven Alliance went on an all-out assault. Both sides lost people, but due to their overwhelming numbers, the Martial Heaven Alliance suppressed the Xian beasts. However, just as the latter began to be forced back, Pill Valley, the Corrupt Path, the Ancient Races, the Ancient Family Alliance, the Dongfang family, and other powers arrived to stand by their side. As for the Nangong family, the Beitang family, and the Shimen family, they stood beside Yi Lingshan. Both sides were about to start a war, and only then did the divine families interfere. The Heavenly Dragon Legion descended and split apart the two sides. Due to casualties appearing on both sides, they settled the matter by leaving it unsettled. The righteous path's morale has dropped because you haven't appeared in a long time. Everyone thinks that you failed and that the Martial Heaven Alliance's situation is unstable, said Yu Shaoqian. Yu Shaoqian had been forced to just watch as all this occurred. She was a member of the original devil race, so if she suddenly appeared, it would draw too much suspicion. Furthermore, amongst all the original devil race's disciples, she was the only one capable of using the profound spirit Tao scripture, and thus the only one capable of concealing her identity from the continent's experts. The other disciples of the original devil race could be recognized. That was why even though Yi Lingshan and the righteous path had fallen into such a critical state, Yu Shaoqian hadn't dared to rashly take action. If things went badly, it would be adding oil to the fire. I thought that I was skilled at courting death. Who would have thought that this world has people even more skilled than me in that regard? A vein throbbed on Long Chen's forehead. We're going. Xiaoqian, you come with us this time. They activated the transportation formation to return to the wild world. The wild world was in the same state as when they had left. The original devil race was excavating many precious ores, and their elite warriors were guarding the spatial portals to exterminate any of the devil race's experts that arrived. Xiaoqian then activated the transportation formation within the wild world. Divine light enveloped everyone, and they appeared within the cloud chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's territory. However, when they arrived, they found that things were chaotic. Countless Xian beasts were attacking. The grand formation had already been broken. Powerful Xian beasts poured in like a tide. They were all Netherpassage experts, and they were also Empyreans. The cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's territory was badly damaged. The ground was littered with corpses. Many of them belonged to the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. Kei Yuzhu was leading her experts at the core of the formation. Only this core area was able to remain whole, but even it was on the verge of crumbling. Ah, Kei Yuzhu, this is the result of not adapting to change. You wanted to rely on a little human whose fur hasn't even grown in? Did you think that would allow you to rest at ease? Now, Long Chen and his Dragonblood Legion are dead, so your cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race can go with them to hell. Space has been locked here, and it's impossible to send requests for help. You're trapped. Do you regret your actions now? If you surrender, I can give you a path to life. One of the Peng race's experts stood in the air, directing the attack of the Xian beasts. Peng Wanshan, the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race will not bend our spines even in death, shouted Kei Yuzhu. Oh, then I'll just break them instead. Kill them all. They can't last much longer, sneered that expert. Peng Wanli was the leader of the Peng race and the Xian beasts, while this person was Peng Wanli's brother, Peng Wanshan. He was a well-known member of the Xian beasts with an extremely high status. His position was second only to Peng Wanli. What a good idea. Just at this moment, a sinister voice rang out. It was like a devil had been summoned, and killing intent turned the air cold. Long Chen. Kei Yuzhu and the others cried out in relief and delight. Long Chen and the Dragonblood Legion hadn't died. Furthermore, their auras had clearly grown, and their Yuan spirits had broken through to the next level. They could undergo their tribulation at any time to become true Netherpassage experts. Everyone from the Dragonblood Legion had actually succeeded. Heaven-shaking cheers came from the experts of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. On the other side, Peng Wanshan and the other experts of the Xian beasts were badly shocked. However, Peng Wanshan suddenly laughed. Haha, excellent, you came at the perfect time. You haven't even undergone your tribulations, yet you dared to come? Then today, the brilliance of the Dragonblood Legion and the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race can die here. Peng Wanshan's initial shock quickly turned to excitement. In his eyes, Long Chen and the Dragonblood Legion had yet to become Netherpassage experts. They had basically thrown themselves into their net. Then we'll see if you have that ability. Long Chen suddenly sneered. He charged forward into their midst. Long Chen, do you think you're still unrivaled? You're just a piece of trash now. A spotted tiger unleashed a powerful claw at him. His manifestation rumbled behind him. He was an Empyrean who had awakened his manifestation and had now advanced into the Netherpassage realm. Xian beasts that successfully advanced to the Netherpassage realm had their bodies grow stronger, and their bloodline divine abilities took another step forward. Long Chen didn't directly receive this attack. Lightning wings appeared on his back, and he turned into a streak of light, narrowly avoiding the claw. The tiger roared angrily and opened his mouth. Terrifying ripples began to form. However, before he could unleash his next attack, a transparent crescent moon blade stabbed through his jaw and came out of the top of his head. His giant body shuddered and then fell to the ground. He didn't move again. He was killed by a tiny crescent moon blade. Hee, big sister Leng Yueyan is great. I really love her. Tang Wana was smiling excitedly. The crescent moon blade came flying back to her. She had just killed a Netherpassage Empyrean with an awakened manifestation in just one easy blow. Endless falling wood, earthen thorns piece the sky. Chu Yao waved her staff. The earth exploded and countless wooden staves flew out. Chu Yao felt like the entire earth's life energy was hers to command. She felt unlimited power. As the wooden staves flew through the air, the Xian beasts that were pouncing upon Long Chen were forced back. They let out miserable cries when those staves pierced their bodies. Chu Yao's attack range encompassed the entire battlefield. Twisting wooden staves covered everything, forming a giant defensive domain. Everyone was amazed by Chu Yao's range. In the past, Chu Yao had also been skilled in wide-area attacks. But due to how widely spread her attacks were, they were lacking sharpness and unable to pose a fatal threat to true experts. Most of the time, they would be able to dodge or flee. However, with the wooden staff, Chu Yao's wood spirit energy had become more vigorous. Even the earth was supporting her, giving her attacks an extra sharpness. They struck like lightning. Even Chu Yao herself was shocked. The staff that Leng Yueyan had given her was a priceless treasure. Boom! Just at this moment, Long Chen unleashed his own powerful attack. His divine ring had appeared behind him, and dragon scales were covering his body. However, dozens of the Xian beasts awakened Empyreans joined forces to stop him. He was unable to get past them. Long Chen, do you think everyone is still stuck in the Life Star realm? You're no different than trash right now. Do you really think you can charge in and kill me? Are you trying to make me laugh to death? Peng Wanshan sneered from behind those experts. He clasped his hands behind him, seemingly having no intention of fighting. So what if Long Chen was powerful? There were over 100 of the Xian beasts' young geniuses who had awakened their manifestations here. Even if Long Chen could fight 10, could he fight 100? Although Chu Yao and Tang Wanner's attacks had been surprising, they were just some minor surprises. They were unable to change the entire board. By charging into their midst, in Peng Wanshan's eyes, Long Chen had trapped himself. He couldn't escape his palm. Hence, Peng Wanshan felt no fear. You're wrong. I didn't come to kill you, but to smash your spine apart. Killing intent raged in Long Chen's eyes, and a certain object appeared in his hand. With a powerful toss, it became a ray of light smashing through their midst. That object was a bronze plaque with a monster's head carved into it, and there was a brass ring through its nose. It was the door knocker that Long Chen had taken from the gates of hell. The door knocker flew out of Long Chen's hand. It rapidly grew larger, and the void rumbled. Death chi filled the air. Without being able to sense the danger, the Xian Beasts experts were blown apart by the mountain-sized bronze plaque. This treasure, which came from the Netherworld, was something that awakened Empyreans who had stepped into the Netherpassage realm didn't have the slightest ability to resist. In that instant, Peng Wanshan went from someone confident that victory was within his grasp to shocked, and then horrified. He hastily retreated but was still struck. He vomited blood and flew back. Due to his greater experience and speed, he managed to escape death. However, a large hand grabbed his shoulder in a vice-like grip. Peng Wanshan turned in horror but didn't even get a chance to look before a foot stamped into his back. Just as the foot landed, another hand grabbed his ankle, picking him up. With a hand on Peng Wanshan's shoulder and another on his ankle, a malevolent expression appeared on Long Chen's face. Let's see just how tough the spines of the Peng race are. Pulling hard, while pressing with his left foot, a cracking sound rang out through the air. Long Chen forcibly split Peng Wanshan in half, forcing out a mournful wail from him. At the same time, Long Chen unleashed his own power throughout Peng Wanshan's body, provoking his nerves to feel dozens of times the pain. Peng Wanshan almost fainted. The remaining experts of the Xian beasts were horrified. They had only seen a ray of light tear through their midst that killed anyone it touched, and then Peng Wanshan had landed in Long Chen's hands. They hadn't even seen what that attack was. Peng Wanshan was now in Long Chen's hands. They didn't dare to make a rash move. The army of the Xian beasts gathered up, looking at each other in dumbfounded silence. They didn't know what to do. Long Chen, release Peng Wanshan, or dash, one of them started to threaten him. Long Chen suddenly twisted Peng Wanshan. It looked like his entire skeleton was being broken. Ah! Peng Wanshan screamed. His voice was chilling. What did you say? I didn't hear it clearly. said Long Chen. That expert's expression grew ugly. Now it was troublesome. Peng Wanshan was the largest figure of the Xian beasts other than their leader, Peng Wanli. Having him be tormented in front of everyone was trampling over the dignity of the Xian beasts. However, Peng Wanshan had truly been conceited. He should have immediately unleashed his full power as soon as he had seen Long Chen. He should have summoned his true form. Unfortunately for him, he had been too confident in victory. He had viewed Long Chen as insignificant. That act had been intentional by him to provoke Long Chen and bait him into charging into their midst so that they could kill him. In that situation, the only thing he had been worried about was Long Chen fleeing, so he had provoked him. At the very least, it could be said that his plan had worked very well. He had succeeded in drawing Long Chen over. Long Chen had taken his bait, but he hadn't taken the hook. The hook hadn't been sharp enough and had instead been smashed to pieces. It's been a long time. The Xian beasts have gotten quite brave. Good, it just so happens that I was wondering where to go. Since you're so enthusiastic, I won't stand on courtesy. Icy killing intent continued to rage in Long Chen's eyes. Suddenly, a flying boat tore through the void. A giant saber image crashed down from it, slashing toward the Xian beasts. At the same time, an imposing and ominous voice rang out. Bastards of the Xian beasts, if I don't smash you to pieces today, I'll write my name backward. This attack came so quickly that it seemed to surpass the limits of spacetime. From the moment the saber image appeared to when it landed, there was almost no delay at all. The Xian beasts did their best to defend, but the saber image wiped out everything it touched. This saber image had contained the attacker's determination and fury. It was an attack that could not be stopped whether you ascended to the heavens or fled to hell. The majority of the Xian beasts had been wiped out. The survivors were so terrified that they fled for their lives. Where do you think you're running? Today, I'll be hunting you all down to your headquarters. The void split open, revealing the old man. He held the heaven-splitting blade. Killing intent surged out of him. When the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race had been attacked, their alarms hadn't gone off. However, Li Tianxian had still sensed something wrong. Using the reincarnation mirror, he took a look. Even then, everything had apparently been normal. But after watching for a while, he started to get a bad feeling. The reason for that was because the fluctuations of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's grand formation were locked to the same frequency no matter how long he watched. That wasn't normal. He then quickly realized that someone had set up a larger formation to cover up what was going on inside. The next obvious conclusion was that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race was being attacked. Following that, a quick investigation revealed that someone had stealthily cut off their connection with the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race's transportation formations. Everything had clearly been planned. Li Tianxian didn't hesitate any longer upon learning that. He immediately alerted Chu Jianying and the old man, moving at top speed to help the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. The old man had the worst temper and had ended up in quite a few conflicts with the Xian beasts during this time. Being in collusion with the other large powers, with even the divine families secretly supporting them, the Xian beasts had infuriated him. Then Li Tianxian had told him that the Xian beasts were attacking the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, which Long Chen had asked him to look after before going into seclusion. If something happened to the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, how could he explain it to Long Chen? So upon seeing these Xian beasts, he had directly unleashed a furious blow. The old man could not be held back, not even by himself. He had already decided that no matter what, he was going to slaughter the Xian beasts. Even if Chu Jianying got in his way, it wouldn't matter. It was only after unleashing his attack that he realized Long Chen was there as well. Long Chen, you're back. The old man's anger vanished, replaced with delight. The old man and the others were quite emotional upon seeing them. The Dragonblood Legion had been missing for 3 extra months, and knowing how big Long Chen's guts were, they were vaguely aware that Long Chen had brought the entire Dragonblood Legion to attack the Netherpassage realm together. He had been looking for a way for everyone to pass. That was a path where they all lived, or they all died. But the chances of living were far too remote. So when he and the rest of the Dragonblood Legion didn't return, they could only come to accept this cruel reality. Their relief upon seeing him even temporarily blew away their anger at the Xian beasts for this attack. Long Chen was also emotional upon seeing their reaction. For even an iron-hearted man like the old man to react like this showed how dear he was to them. Chu Jianying and Li Tianxian sighed in relief upon seeing him. A heavy weight lifted from their hearts. Sorry for worrying you, old man. I heard that the Xian beasts are getting very arrogant. Are you interested in us two men doing something big? Shouted Long Chen. Haha, of course I'm interested. Don't worry, whatever calamity you provoke, I'll support you, declared the old man. Alright then, good. Long Chen suddenly pulled. Peng Wanshan let out a shriek as Long Chen twisted him into two loops, completely deforming him and his skeleton. Peng Wanshan exploded. His soul was unable to bear the torment any longer, and he self-detonated. He splattered Long Chen with blood. Tossing half a leg to the ground, Long Chen shouted, Old man, Alliance Head, Shen Master, and the other seniors, just help me lock down their paths of retreat. Today, not one of the Xian beasts that came here is allowed to leave. Brothers of the Dragonblood Legion, warriors of the cloud, chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, kill them all. Kill! Icy voices rang out in unison, all demanding blood. The Dragonblood warriors, as well as the experts of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, charged out. Meng Qi, Chu Yao, Tang Wan'er, Yu Zhiqiu, Lu Rian, and Dong Mingyu all went all out. The most berserk one was Cloud as she charged through the Xian beasts. Even facing powerful Xian beasts in the Netherpassage realm, Cloud showed off her savage side, utilizing her devouring divine ability to swallow them. Kill! The old man also shot after the survivors, his heaven-splitting blade wiping out masses of them. At this moment, it was possible to see just how powerful the old man was. The heaven-splitting blade had a river of starlight flowing on top of it, and none of the Xian beasts could stop him. There was nowhere for the Xian beasts to run. The Martial Heaven Alliance's experts had completely surrounded them. As for the Dragonblood warriors, it wasn't easy for them to slaughter Netherpassage experts, but by joining forces, they were able to do it. That was the result of the difference in realms. In less than an incense stick's worth of time, the Xian beasts had been annihilated. Long Chen announced, Alliance Head, summon the Righteous Path's disciples who are inside the Yin-Yang world. We'll meet at the Kunpeng race's ancestral lands. We're going to go first. Long Chen had Cloud bring the Dragonblood warriors speeding away. They're going to. Chu Jianying suddenly thought of a shocking possibility. The Peng race's ancestral lands were between the western Xian region and the northern Xian region. It was adjacent to the Martial Heaven Searing, as the Peng race liked to live next to water. They were different from the other races. The Kunpeng was the original ancestor of the Peng race. Then there were the Azure Peng, Spirit Peng, Sea Peng, Cloud Peng, and even the most famous Golden Wing Great Peng. They were all descendants of the original Kunpeng. The Kunpeng was legendary for transforming from a Kun to a Peng, just like how the dragon race transformed from a serpent into a python, into a drake, and then into a dragon. It was said that whether it was the Kunpeng or the dragon, this kind of transformation was in defiance of the heavens. The heavenly Daos did not permit it, so they would go all out to destroy them. Whether it was the Kunpeng or the dragon, in this world, their existence was a thing of the past. Any historical records about them were so distant that it was impossible to trace them back to their roots. Aside from legends and stories, there were no official records of a Kun transforming into a Peng, or a serpent becoming a dragon. That was why these transformations were normally used as stories to encourage and motivate people, making them feel like even a serpent could one day become a dragon if they worked hard enough. Even a fish could one day become a soaring Peng, breaking free of the restrictions of heaven and earth. Of course, most people felt that these were just fabricated motivational stories. A fish was a fish. A serpent was a serpent. No matter how hard they worked, they would just become a bigger fish or a bigger serpent. Those stories existed only to make someone believe their own lies. However, the Peng race had its own sayings. According to them, The only ones capable of this transformation were the Kunpeng race. However, in their ideologies, only the original ancestor could be called the Kunpeng. The original ancestor was an existence that had transformed from a Kun into a Peng. Only it was qualified to be called a Kunpeng. For a Kun to transform into a Peng required undergoing countless tribulations against the heavenly Daos. To not be destroyed even after 10,000 tribulations was what transformed the Kun into the Peng. However, on the Martial Heaven continent, there was no such thing as a Kun race, so it was impossible to give birth to a true Kunpeng. In the past, the Kunpeng race had given birth to their greatest genius of their history. That genius had awakened a trace of the ancient Kunpeng's bloodline, becoming the Kunpeng race's strongest expert. He was the Peng Emperor, the Peng race's greatest expert who had once fought against a sovereign of the human race. At this moment, on the border to the sea, there was a glorious statue of the Peng Emperor with a giant sacrificial altar built around it. The towering statue was made of brilliant gold, emitting a majestic pressure. The Peng Emperor's statue was not just a symbol of the Kunpeng race, but it was also a symbol of the entire Xian beast race. After the Qi flow eruption, the Peng Emperor's sacrificial ceremony was carried out. It was said that the Peng Emperors will had awakened and blessed the entire Xian beast race with karmic luck, allowing them to grow even stronger. The Kunpeng race's disciples were quickly awakening their bloodlines. In advancing to the Netherpassage realm, the geniuses of the Xian beasts had been blessed by the Peng Emperor's will. This great blessing had resulted in 80% of the Peng race's disciples successfully advancing to the 12th rank. As for the other races of the Xian beasts, they mostly maintained a 50-50 pass rate. As a result, the Kunpeng race had grown even stronger. On the other side of the Peng Emperor's statue, there was a giant palace. Peng Wanli was seated within. Below him were the various leaders of the Xian beasts. Even Long Juansong of the ancient races was present. They were all smiling as if they were awaiting good news. Reporting to the race leader, something major has occurred with the operation. Master Wanshan has. Just at this moment, one of the Peng race's experts came flying in, terrified. Peng Wanli had originally been meditating, but his eyes flew open upon hearing something had happened to Peng Wanshan. What happened? Master Wanshan, his soul stone, it shattered. Impossible! All the experts let out startled cries. Peng Wanshan was someone whose seniority in the Kunpeng race was second only to Peng Wanli. He had already touched the border of the Samsara realm. Based on their estimates, he would be able to enter the 4th step of the Netherpassage realm within the next few years. Peng Wanshan had led a portion of their elites in a sneak attack against the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. Hence, these experts were waiting for him to return in triumph. However, what had awaited them instead was this grievous news. The soul stone was linked to the true body's soul. When the true body died, the soul stone shattered. It's not just Master Wanshan's soul stone, all the soul stones of the experts who attacked the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race shattered, cried out that disciple. They all shattered? How is that possible? How could all of them be killed instantly, and why did you only report it now? Roared Peng Wanli, his gaze as sharp as blades. That disciple shuddered in terror. He was in charge of the Soul Stone Depository. However, for good or bad, he had a group that he was in command of. He hadn't personally witnessed it. His 2 subordinates had been left to keep watch. As a result, those 2 had ended up drinking too much. The sound of a soul stone shattering hadn't been loud enough to wake them up from their drunken stupor. Later on, when more of them shattered all at once like firecrackers, they finally woke up. However, when they woke from their dreams, they found themselves in a nightmare. Frightened out of their wits, they had reported it to him. When their leaders saw the shattered soul stones belonged to the ones who had attacked the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, he had immediately gone to report to his higher-ups. However, with Peng Wanli glaring at him like this, he was completely terrified. In front of Peng Wanli, he didn't even have the courage to lie. Die! Peng Wanli roared furiously. With a pointing of his finger, that disciple was exterminated. In that instant, he learned what had happened in the Soul Stone Depository. Damn it all, How could this happen? Didn't they say that the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race was cut off from any powerful reinforcements? It's impossible for them to have drawn over any significant help. Did Pill Valley con us? Demanded Long Juansong. This operation was a secret one, with very few people knowing about it. Even amongst the Xian beasts, only a few core experts knew of it. After all, this type of affair couldn't be stated openly. Although everyone would know who had done it, as long as the Xian beasts refused to admit it, there would be no direct proof. Who could do anything to them? Even the divine families wouldn't be able to pursue it. Let's go take a look at the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race. We'll see who was so brazen as to kill the people of the Xian beasts. Peng Wanli stood, killing intent surging out of him. Race leader, we cannot. The heavenly divine writ has been extended. If we went over, it would be admitting that we launched the sneak attack despite it, said one of the Xian beasts. The heavenly divine writ had originally been for half a year, but a month ago, the divine families had announced that it was being extended for another 3 months. With the conflicts between the Martial Heaven Alliance and the others, the divine families had no choice but to extend the ceasefire. It was impossible to tell what was happening inside the Yin-Yang world, so if the Martial Heaven continent threw itself into chaos, it would be a huge joke. If Peng Wanli charged over to the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, that would be publicly going against the heavenly divine writ, which would be going against the divine families. However, if they didn't go, they wouldn't even know who killed their people. How could they accept that? Peng Wanli, I Longchen have come. Shouldn't you get the fuck out and kowtow in greeting? Just at this moment, a powerful voice resounded through the palace. It was like the roar of a god, causing heaven and earth to rumble. Peng Wanli's expression instantly changed. He realized what had happened. Suddenly, the Peng race's ancestral lands shook. The earth was torn apart, with countless buildings collapsing. Peng Wanli and the others flew out of the palace, only to see a black-robed figure standing atop the Peng Emperor's statue. His hair and robes billowed around him as his killing intent raged. Long Chen. Peng Wanli's pupils shrank. Long Chen stamped a foot on the Peng Emperor's statue. His goal had been to destroy the head, but he found that rather than destroying the statue, it was his own foot that was almost injured. There was some kind of boundless energy within the statue. Long Chen, you dare to blaspheme the Peng Emperor? Get the hell down, shouted the other experts of the Kuanping race. Who cares about the Peng Emperor? Is he worth me blaspheming? You've overestimated the worth of the Xian beasts, sneered Long Chen. The statue of the Peng Emperor depicted a Kuanping spreading its wings, its head raised toward the heavens as if it wished to charge through them. Killing intent and rage filled Long Chen. If it weren't for Meng Qi and the other women, he really would want to pee all over the Peng Emperor's head with his brothers. Thinking of the corpses of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race, he was overwhelmed by his urge to kill the Xian beasts. If he didn't kill them all, those warriors of the cloud-chasing heaven-swallowing sparrow race wouldn't be able to rest in peace. Long Chen, tell me, were you the one who killed our people? Demanded Peng Wanli. At the same time, he gave a stealthy order to activate the Grand Formation. No, answered Long Chen. If it wasn't you, then who was it? I didn't kill people. I only killed a pack of animals, was Long Chen's cold reply. Long Chen, you've gone against the heavenly divine writ and now you wish to publicly provoke the Xian beasts? You want to start a war amongst the Martial Heaven continent? Just what are you intending? Idiot, your stall tactics are childish in my eyes. Did you think your formation would be able to kill me here? Keep fucking dreaming. Just at this moment, the dragon blood warriors that had been concealed in their own formation came out from behind the statue of the Peng Emperor. All of their auras were fluctuating intensely. They had reached the limit of their current realm. Not good. Seeing their current state, Peng Wanli and the other experts' expressions changed. Peng Wanli, I've received your gift. Now I'll send you a bigger one. One aura after another exploded past its limits. The sunny sky instantly turned dark. An aura of annihilation filled the air. The void exploded, unleashing waves of heavenly pressure. The Dragonblood warriors had broken the final barrier to summon their heavenly tribulations. After passing, they would be true Netherpassage experts in control of life and death energy. Looking at the tribulation clouds in the sky, the Xian beasts completely panicked. They retreated. When the heavenly tribulation descended, if they were within its scope, it would be viewed as a disturbance by the heavenly tribulation, so they would also be attacked. The Dragonblood Legion was undergoing a collective tribulation. Hence, the heavenly might condensing in the sky was awe-inspiring and horrifying at the same time. Longchen, you dare to undergo tribulation in my Peng race's ancestral lands. Is this a declaration of war against the Xian beasts? Shouted Peng wanly. He was also shocked that Longchen would dare to do such a thing. Longchen sneered, there is nothing in this world that I don't dare to do. Longchen, you've gone against the heavenly divine writ. You're ignoring the prestige of the divine families and are causing the continent to descend into anarchy. You will be hunted down and slaughtered by the divine families. Shouted Long Juansong. Great leader of the ancient races, I've known you for many years, but I have yet to see your abilities aside from eating dog's hit. You want to use the heavenly divine writ to threaten me? Well, I'm not threatened. If others don't offend me, I won't offend them. If others offend me, I'll endure a little. If they offend me some more, I'll pull them up by the roots. Since the Kunpeng race is the leader of the Xian beasts, do you think you're badass enough to do anything you want? Alright, then I, Longchen, will make the Kunpeng race pay the appropriate price for your foolishness. Longchen's voice resounded even through the thunder. Lightning poured down from the sky. The lightning crashed down like giant shooting stars, blowing apart the ancestral lands of the Kunpeng race. Activate the Grand Formation to block the lightning, shouted Peng wanly. A translucent barrier appeared over the ancestral lands. Only the Peng Emperor's statue was left outside. The lightning crashing down slid away from the barrier. Long Juansong sneered, Longchen, do you think everyone else is stupid? After you used heavenly tribulation to destroy Heavenly Fate Island and the Xian Beast's headquarters, did you think that we wouldn't set up defenses? This grand formation was set up by a formation grandmaster of the Ancient Family Alliance, and it is able to screen off the power of heavenly tribulation. To try using the same trick twice only indicates that you're a child. Longchen, you and your Dragonblood Legion are all fools. Did you really think such a little ploy could threaten us? Shouted one of the Peng race's experts protected by the Grand Formation. What, don't like it? Then come at me. He wants to bait you in. Once you get closer to the formation, its killing mechanisms will activate, said Xiachen. Too childish, too immature. Longchen shook his head disdainfully at the arrogant expert of the Peng race. Longchen, you aren't even a man. If you were a man, you'd come to challenge me in a one-against-one. Since you're not a man, bring me your women. I'll treat them properly. The Peng race's expert's mocking suddenly took on a lecherous tone, causing Longchen's expression to sink. Since you want to die so badly, fine. Longchen suddenly slashed his saber. The tribulation clouds in the sky were cut in half. The void exploded as the rage of the heavens descended. Longchen's attack had provoked the heavenly tribulation to a new level. Gigantic lightning swords pierced down toward the earth. The lightning instantly grew several times stronger. Even the Dragonblood warriors clenched their teeth from the pain. The rate at which they were progressing through the tribulation was too quick, unlike past tribulations where they always had time to adjust to new levels. The Grand Formation rumbled, but it still endured the lightning swords. There were no signs of it breaking. Ah, Longchen, you're trash. You don't even have the courage to come kill me, yet you claim to be a peerless expert? You claim the Dragonblood Legion to be number one? You should just call yourselves the Turtle Legion since you're all cowards. The expert within the barrier grew even more arrogant. Longchen's expression didn't change, while the Dragonblood warriors simply looked at that expert coldly. However, there seemed to be a trace of ridicule in their eyes, as well as the slightest trace of pity. Xiachen took out a small formation disc and tossed it out. The formation disc landed on the Grand Formation and exploded. However, the Grand Formation remained unaffected. The experts inside the barrier became even more pleased. Their curses and taunts grew even more unbearable. Just as those taunts rang out, on the spot where the formation disk had exploded, a single rune slowly lit up. That rune had been branded onto the Grand Formation. Cracks spread throughout the Grand Formation, reaching every corner of it. The experts inside it instantly shut their mouths, growing uneasy. However, their arrogance quickly returned because the rune that had caused the cracks now faded away. Boss, their crimes are unforgivable. They did this to themselves, so they can't blame anyone else. Xiachen shook his head and sighed. Longchen nodded. A slightly complicated expression appeared deep within his eyes. Was a person's foolishness really without limit? At this moment, cracking sounds rang throughout the formation. The cursing from the Peng race's experts quieted. What's going on? Investigate it. Everything about the formation is running normally. The runes are all intact, and there are no problems with the 360 formation disks dash. More and more cracks appeared, growing thicker and thicker. Then how is this happening? Did he really? Some of them looked at Xiachen with horror. Xiachen was looking back at them expressionlessly. That look gave them chills. They were naturally aware that Xiachen was a formation master, but the person that they had invited to set up this formation had claimed himself to be a grandmaster amongst grandmasters, someone unrivaled on the path of formations. At that time, he had sworn that this formation of his could not be broken by Xiachen even if the latter was given 10 years. The Kunpeng race had also appraised the formation and truly found it to be powerful. If its full power was unleashed, then a fourth-step Netherpassage expert could be killed if caught off guard. That was why they were so confident in this formation. After all, they had set it up specifically to prevent Longchen from causing destruction if he underwent his tribulation here. However, the reality they were seeing flabbergasted them. Xiachen had simply tossed out a formation disk and done nothing else. They were unable to even find what the problem was, but the formation was breaking. The formation began to totter, and the giant lightning swords continued to strike it. The buildings within the barrier were trembling. Quick run! This place won't last much longer. The experts inside fled in a panic. They rushed toward the giant transportation formation at the center. Countless experts also came flying out of the buildings. They had felt that this place was the safest since it was protected by the formation. Inside it, not only could they witness the lightning tribulation up close, but they would also be able to see Longchen and the Dragonblood Legion die. When the people outside had been cursing him, they had joined in as well. Another reason they stayed behind was to show Longchen that the Kunpeng race felt him to be beneath them. It was to antagonize him into coming closer and being instantly killed by the formation. However, Longchen hadn't fallen for it. Instead, Xiachen had made a single move to ruin everything. The transportation formation isn't working, shouted one of the Peng race's disciples. The underground transportation formation is also not working. How can that be? They're separate from the protective formation. The experts in charge of the formations roared furiously. They had no idea what was going on. Seeing the cracks in the formation growing ever larger and more numerous, they were filled with horror and despair. Race leader, save us! Pleas began to ring out toward Peng Wanli. Peng Wanli and the others were also panicking. The Peng race's territory was protected by 3 main formations and 7 secondary formations. They were set up to prevent worst-case scenarios, to handle anything that could possibly happen. They had left a portion of their people behind as bait for Longchen, but now that the formation was being broken, Peng Wanli was also afraid. Although the ones inside the formation were not their elites, they were half their members. The Kunpeng race didn't have that many members. If half of them died, it would definitely cause a big problem for their future reproduction. Longchen, release my people, or I, Kunpengzi, will slaughter everyone beside you. Just at this moment, a voice full of killing intent rang out. A large group rushed over. You're tuning in to the Passion Page's YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.